Welcome into the midday show here on 97.5 The Fanatic. I'm Ray Dunn, taking you through for the next 4 hours. Sean Rodman producing the show. And sweep the Mets, sweep the Mets. Man, this team stepped up and swept the Mets. What a week of baseball here. Of course, we've got Eagles-Chiefs, and we got the Super Bowl rematch we're going to get into today. But just to start with, just a wonderful. Rob Thompson called it probably the win of the season last night. Jesus Luzardo looks like he's going to have an absolute meltdown through the first 5-6 batters of that game. And then no more base runners. You just decide, you know what, I'm just going to shut these guys down and pitch an incredible 8 innings. Probably the best 8-inning, 4-run game you could ever ask for, because he just got downright dominant after that start to the game. He looked tremendous. Duran, I mean, the Mets hitters at that point in the game, they'd been dominated by Luzardo. Duran comes in, and it was like, all right, yeah, this is the heart of your order, but there is not a way at all that you're going to figure this guy out and get yourselves on base. It was a beautiful, beautiful ending there. Duran comes in. I'll say it. I was at home like, hey, Weston Wilson's still at second base when this guy has such a high ground ball rate. Doesn't matter when you strike them all out. Doesn't matter if they're just not going to put the ball in play and can't hit what you're throwing at them. Duran was tremendous in that 9th inning. After 7 tremendous innings from Luzardo following that first inning, 25 straight set down by Phillies pitching to close that one out. And then the bats work their way back. Harrison Bader remains Mr. Incredible. The Phillies take 4 in a row against the New York Mets, a 4-game sweep. They came into this series up 7 in the NL East. It's ballooned to 11. It's the largest lead they've had in the National League East in 14 years. They're going to win back-to-back division titles. They played so well this week, they have a chance to do it at home on Sunday. If things break their way, more than likely, they'll have to do it out there on the West Coast, whether it be in probably, hopefully, in L.A. at some point next week as they enter the next 6 games of this important 10-game stretch. I opened up this week all concerned. This is what happened to Trey Turner. Then we get the Bohm news. You're without that entire side of the infield. The Mets are coming to town. The Mets have owned you, and you just absolutely own the Mets. What a response by this Phillies team since they got swept up there at Citi Field. I would love to run into the guys that were heckling me outside the 7 line on my way back from that game at Citi Field. I would love to have that conversation with them again. I would love to see how they're feeling today when they said the Mets were coming down here to take the division 2 weeks ago. The Mets came down here, lost the division, and right now might work their way out of the postseason, which is hilarious to say. 1.5-game lead for them on that last wild card spot. They look like a team in free fall. Amazing what 2 weeks can do. And the Phillies have shown you a couple times now. And this is what I was getting into yesterday, kind of that werewolf moment, like, don't let me do it. I could see the full moon. I'm about to turn into the werewolf here. I'm about to turn into the guy that's buying back in entirely with this team. Don't let me do it. Don't let me do it. I'm opening myself up to get hurt again. But how could you not? Every time they've been met with adversity over the last 6 weeks, they've had a response to it. Situation with Wheeler, they had a nice week right after that. They lose 3 in a row to the Mets, they go on a roll again. They lose Turner and Bohm, hey, no problem, we'll just sweep the Mets. They keep responding to the bell here. It's like this team should know that they're undermanned. This team should know that they've lost key parts, and yet they just don't. And now they're within 2 games of the Brewers for that top spot in the National League. Like I said yesterday, I have a truce with Cincinnati because they play the Reds the last weekend of the season. And also, if the Reds knock the Mets out of the postseason, that'll be even funnier. Maybe, just maybe, we're talking about the top seed in the National League. Is it possible? Yes. Is it probable? No. But that's where they've gotten themselves into the conversation at this point. And now they'll have an opportunity this weekend against Kansas City to keep pushing things forward. And then, of course, L.A. next week. We'll break that all down for you coming up. But last night, just beautiful to sweep that team and to see the contributions you're getting down the lineup, whether it be Kemp, and obviously we've talked about Bader and what he's done for you. At this point, I can't believe, and Connor Thomas walking through that producer studio right now, he was one of the big guys on getting Harrison Bader in here and trading for him. I don't even think either one of us could have predicted this level of Harrison Bader production, but he's Mr. Incredible at this point. He's earned himself a lot of money as well. Upcoming in free agency for him. But they have just been so much fun over this week to watch this Mets series. And it's fun to watch them in free fall on the other side. It's just a lovely, lovely thing for this Phillies team. They've got me to the buyback point. I'm going tonight. I'm looking forward to seeing Walker Buehler's debut. But they've got me to the buyback point. Also, while we're just sitting here talking about takeaways from last night, I said yesterday, Sean Rodman, you were not here yesterday, but you were listening, and you heard me say it. Jesus Luzardo, all I wanted last night, just lock up that third starter spot for the NLDS. Guess what Luzardo does? He makes me concerned off the jump and then locks up that entire third starter spot for the NLDS. I mean, with the way he pitched now in the last 9 starts for him, he's got a sub-3 ERA. He's found in kind of his early season form, but a new level to where he's at as a pitcher over these last 9 starts. He is now your Game 3 starter. Signed, sealed, delivered. He joins Ranger Suarez and Christopher Sanchez as, again, 2 guys that have just stepped up in a big way for you since Zach Wheeler was lost for the season. The 3 lefties have done it. It's been tremendously impressive when you needed them to do it. And now you feel all good, kind of with where they're at. But, of course, we got a big football game this weekend. I guess big in the sense that it's a big opponent. It's a Super Bowl rematch. It is week 2. So, and you only get so many of these. You know, you only get 17 in the regular season, so I guess they all could be considered pretty big games. But this game this weekend, I'm curious how you're feeling about the matchup with the Chiefs at 610-632-0975. Listening this morning, there's confidence, quite a bit. The guy that sits in this seat, Andrew Salciunas, tremendously confident. Like, I think he thinks that if he took the field against the Chiefs, they have a chance. John Kincade, also pretty confident. Andrew Pacheco, pretty confident in the chances. Connor Thomas seems pretty confident in the chances. You should be. The Eagles are the better team here. And all this week, I've kind of fought the feeling of narrative versus what actually plays out on the field. And I'm curious for you, how do you feel about this matchup with the Chiefs? Where do you see this one going at 610-632-0975 as we look towards this game? Because I have 3 things for you that stick out in neon to me when it comes to this matchup. First up, where's the pressure coming from? I think this is the obvious takeaway. I think this is the low-hanging fruit of this conversation because we've done a decent amount of conversation leading into the season, then obviously following that first game of the year against the Cowboys, they bring in Zadarius Smith of like, all right, what do we make of this edge rusher room? And what do we make of that defensive front following the departure of both Josh Sweat and Milton Williams? And if you go back to that Super Bowl, part of the reason Sweat and Williams got paid as handsomely as they did, they were tremendous in it. There were 6 sacks in that Super Bowl. They were accounting for 4 of those 6. They were just great in that Super Bowl. So when you look at that Super Bowl back, you have to realize that those 2 guys are no longer here. What do you have in terms of getting pressure on the interior? Warner Ajomo is going to get the chance to be right next to Jalen Carter. Can he take advantage in the way Milton Williams did? Also, when you look at the edge rushers, is it going to be someone from this rotation that steps up? Is it going to be Nolan Smith? Jalix Hunt, I think we all felt really good about the way he ended last season. Can he get back to that form? And can they keep Patrick Mahomes off rhythm? Coming up in the next segment, there was a great story in The Athletic about one key play early in that Super Bowl that kind of turned the tide or could have turned the tide in the Chiefs' direction that the Eagles were able to stop. And it comes back to getting pressure. So that's the first key for this game, is where is that pressure coming from? Who do you believe in to get that pressure for this Eagles team? Defensively, we'll keep it there with controlling the middle of the field. I know yesterday our guy Brandon in the back clipped me talking about the linebackers. With the injuries for the receiver crew out there in Kansas City, obviously you're always keying in on Travis Kelce, but at this point, working the middle of the field, trying to get into space in the middle of the field is going to be bigger for the Chiefs. And also, after last week, watching Mahomes just try and be the magician, trying to be the superhero and take everything into his own hands with his ability to scramble, those 2 linebackers going to be a big piece of what you're doing right now. And also that interior pressure to throw off any rhythm early they could try and establish in the passing game to get Mahomes clicking with some of these lesser receivers for the Kansas City Chiefs that will be available. That's the second thing I'm watching for, just how that defense controls the middle of the field against Kansas City. And then offensively, you ran into how many stack boxes against the Cowboys? You know what the Chiefs did last year in the Super Bowl? It's the ability to go over the top. I'm not asking for like 6 daggers, but 1 or 2 might be helpful. And I don't believe you're winning this football game if there is only 1 pass attempt greater than 10 yards for the Eagles this week. You're going to have to be able to take advantage of going over the top against this Chiefs defense. Those are 3 things that I'm watching for this week, and I'm curious how you feel about this game because I think I'm closer to the Kincade-Thomas range of this whole thing. I'm pretty confident. Not necessarily sitting here getting chesty saying this is a 2-0 team already. We'll get to that, and I mentioned where the pressure is coming from. A great story in The Athletic from the Chiefs side of things about where things went wrong in the Super Bowl. and how the Eagles have to find some sort of formula, not necessarily to replicate it, but to do something very similar on Sunday. I'm Ray Dunn. Take you through middays here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
A Chiefs offense without Rashee Rice and without Xavier Worthy, I mean, now you're down to, I get it, Travis Kelce is still a guy who can make some plays, and Marquise Brown had 10 catches for 99 yards. When has ever a Chiefs receiver caught 10 passes and not even had 100 yards? So I think that's and this is a Chiefs team that was really trying this preseason and going into this year to try to get back to being a vertical offense. They really haven't had that. So, I mean, without those two guys, if Marquise Brown, who's not a bad receiver, but certainly not, not a guy that you like CeeDee Lamb, right? If that's their number one target out there, I think the secondary is not going to be, scared to death. So as long as you get a good pass rush and don't give Mahomes time to pick you apart and, find guys in the zone like Kelce or Marquise Brown, then they should be all right. So I would say the pass rush it's got to be on them to get the job done. I think, obviously, if you're going to have that kind of game plan where everything is very short and fast and quick, you have to be decisive, and Jalen Hurts was. I know he had 4 incompletions, but 3 of them were on throwaway. So I think really only one, and one was a drop, if I'm not mistaken. I think there was only one ball Jalen Hurts threw that hit the ground that was, say, his fault. So that's pretty good. He was very, very efficient. I would expect that was a little bit of an anomaly and that you will see that more, especially because the Chiefs are a little bit more aggressive defensively.
Midday show here on The Fanatic. I'm Ray Dunn, taking you through it here on 97.5 The Fanatic. Just curious, testing the waters here with people today. How are we feeling about this matchup with the Chiefs at 610-632-0975? I'm feeling pretty good. It's so much of just the respect thing for Mahomes and Reed, because I think and this is not exactly groundbreaking analysis from you, but like the two teams, there's just so much I would give in terms of the talent disparity here for the Eagles. And Mahomes tried to carry that team single-handedly in Sao Paulo and was not successful. And I like that Chargers team, but that Chargers team is not this Eagles team. I understand you're going to Arrowhead. I understand it's going to be a tough world to see Mahomes and Reed start 0-2. But the only reason that I sit here and say I'm pretty confident, not over the moon about this one, is just because of the two guys on that side. And throw Spags in there as well. Steve Spagnuolo, the defensive coordinator for the Chiefs, has to be another reason why. Now, I want to go to the offense here for the Kansas City Chiefs and this Eagles defense. Because obviously we've talked about so much that second corner spot and what we expect from it. But there was a really good story in The Athletic. I think it was today, yesterday. Yeah, it came out this morning from Jesse Newell. Or it came out, I guess, sometime this week. It was updated earlier this morning. And the Super Bowl kind of gets boiled down to, that was just a blowout. It was, they crushed them. 40-6 was the true final score. 34-0 was the true final. Whatever you want is your true final score. That wasn't 40-22 when the Chiefs made it look a little bit closer with garbage time scores. There was a 3rd and 3 in the first quarter with the Eagles leading 7-0. The Chiefs had the football on their own 40-yard line. And Jesse Newell goes through just the entire game plan of that play. The Chiefs schemed something up where basically Xavier Worthy and Zach Bond ended up 1-on-1 against each other. The pass over the top. The Eagles, in that moment, were at least a little bit exposed in the opportunity for Worthy to go over the top and tie that game if Mahomes was able to hit on it. But much like a lot of that Super Bowl, Josh Sweat got home. The pressure got to Mahomes. Mahomes had to quickly try and find something a little bit more underneath because he didn't have time to let that play develop and step into that throw. Ends up throwing it incomplete. That 3rd and 3, the drive ends, goes awry. And the Eagles defense, once again, didn't allow that passing game to get into a rhythm early. And if you're a part of the drinking game here, I'm going to say it. Game script. That's the first time today that we bring up the phrase game script. That obviously changes the way the rest of the game is played. If they hit on that touchdown, oh, man, 7-7. If they hit on that and at least get down there and score, they're at least getting points on the board there early. They're at least moving the football against this Eagles team. And it's not to give the Chiefs credit necessarily for what they schemed up in that play, but it's to go to the bigger point and that first point that I was focusing in on today with this Eagles-Chiefs matchup. Getting that pressure home was massive in that Super Bowl. Thank you, Captain Obvious. But what you didn't have last week against Dak Prescott was the 34% of the time you got pressure on him. Very low. Only got pressure home against the Cowboys 34.3% of the time, according to Next Gen Stats. The Eagles' defense in that Super Bowl didn't allow the rhythm for the passing game because of the way that they were getting into the backfield. They forced mistakes. Cooper DeJean, Zach Bond, think of those interceptions. And they also then, once they forced those mistakes, because the Chiefs are chasing the mistakes they've already made, Chiefs are chasing that rhythm, trying to find that big play to get themselves going. That allowed the Eagles to roll into a really, really aggressive nature of getting after the quarterback. And not necessarily in terms of blitzing, but just getting after the quarterback because they know that they're going to have to throw the football to catch up. And that allowed that game to get a sizable difference as it did. And I bring up this story and I bring up that play specifically because early on, that's what you're looking for from this team. Talking about the 6 sacks, talking about getting pressure home, keeping Mahomes off his rhythm and not letting them, and they'll be able to convert out of rhythm plays. Mahomes rolling to his right, Mahomes rolling around, he went across his body and somehow making some magic happen. That's what you get when you play against one of the best quarterbacks of all time. But keeping them out of that rhythm early is not necessarily something you feel comfortable with, given the fact that you haven't seen that from this edge rusher group in week 1. And there were a couple of times you're sitting there watching Dak Prescott like, hey, anyone want to get to that guy? Anyone want to try and contest this one a little bit? And obviously they're trying to get there. And obviously they're trying to make the play. But you just didn't have that in week 1. So the biggest thing that sticks out to me in reading back of this write-up on a play for the Chiefs that they felt they had schemed up something to work and it just got blown up by the Eagles' pressure is who's going to be the person to step up and do that? Who's going to be the one that actually makes that play happen for the Eagles in this one? Is it going to be a Nolan Smith? Is it going to be a Jalen Hunt? Are they going to get Zadarius Smith onto the field? Is he going to be the guy that does that? Josh Uche? Are we even going to have, an active Ojulari? Patrick Johnson going to get his opportunity to do it. From the interior, Jalen Carter needs to be a game wrecker. And mostly it needs to be whoever's there next to Jalen Carter to be that game wrecker. Ojomo obviously fits in as the likely one. Byron Young had a nice game last week. Like, depending on where they go in the interior, depending on what play it is, who's sitting there next to Jalen Carter, that has to be the game wrecker because they're going to focus on Carter. And you need that pressure up middle like what Milton Williams gave you in that Super Bowl. So that's the biggest thing for me. And I mentioned it as the three things looking towards this game. You weren't able to pressure last week. If you let Mahomes get into that rhythm early, this entire thing flips in a way we didn't see in the Super Bowl. And that play that was written about in The Athletic is such an example of how good things were going for the Birds that you need to be able to find a semblance of that. It can't necessarily be as dominant. No one expects it to be that dominant. But that play is an example of what you need to see flip on its head for the Birds in this game. Now, talking about concern defensively, flipping that back to the offense and something we took from the Super Bowl. That running game being slowed down. We had Olivia Reiner on yesterday from the Philadelphia Inquirer, talked a little bit about the blocking week one for the run game. Jordan Mailata also talked yesterday to the media about the blocking, about what he sees for this team. We'll play both of those coming up for you next. And the running game. It's only 1 week. Concern might not be the word, but you want to see it start to find its footing in week 2 here for the Eagles. So I'm Ray Dunn, taking you through the midday show here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Now on 97.5 The Fanatic Sports Update.
Phillies sweep the Mets. I'm Sean Rodman, and the Phillies come from behind last night after giving up 4 runs in the first to complete the 4-game sweep, which puts the magic number at 5 for the NL East division title. Phillies host the Royals in a 3-game series this weekend. Walker Buehler gets a start tonight, making his Phillies debut. Buehler had a 5.45 ERA this season with the Boston Red Sox prior to his release, and former Philly Michael Lorenzen gets the start for the Royals tonight. First pitch is at 6:45. The Birds head to Kansas City this weekend for a Super Bowl rematch. Landon Dickerson and Jalen Hunt both practiced in full yesterday after being limited on Wednesday. Dallas Goedert, Tamara Key, and Will Shipley all did not practice yesterday for a second straight day. We'll keep you updated on the injury report once we get it later. Nick Sirianni is scheduled to speak to the media at 11:50. We'll carry that live for you here. Matt Derrick of Chiefs Digest will join us at 11:25 as well. This update is brought to you by King's Hawaiian Sliders. Eli Manning reminds you there's nothing like football in King's Hawaiian Sliders. King's Hawaiian Sliders make you a winner on game day. Pick them up this weekend in the bakery or deli section of your grocery store. I'm Sean Rodman on the home of the best Birds coverage, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
Now the Eagles get ready for the Super Bowl rematch as it's all being, put out this week, that it's the Eagles and the Chiefs again. Now, we were talking this morning. We don't believe that it was 40-6 when the starters went out. We don't believe the two teams were that lopsided in talent against each other. But the beatdown on that day was very visible. To see Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes get taken out like that, what do you think they've got cooking for Sunday? And Steve Spagnuolo.
I think that it's going to be a tough challenge because, look, the Chiefs lost their first game, and they're 0-1. So they're the only team in that division, amazingly enough, after 1 week, that didn't win a game. I mean, it would be something if the Chiefs fell 0-2. 0-2. There's no way that they've ever started 0-2 under Mahomes. No way. So that to me is one of the biggest challenges that the Eagles face is you know you're getting their A game this Sunday. Home opener for them, 0-1. Like you're gonna get their best game on Sunday.
Shefty, Zadarius Smith signs with the Eagles. Then they make the trade for Tank Bigsby. Was this something that you believe has been in the works for a while, or was this something to do with week one?
Both were in the works for a while. Zadarius Smith they've been talking to for quite some time. I think that they were moving towards the deal, didn't get it done in time for the opener, and obviously then got it done shortly thereafter the next day. Tank Bigsby, the conversations with the Jaguars dated back to this summer. Initially, Tank Bigsby was supposed to be a part of that deal with Fred Johnson, the offensive tackle.
Interesting.
And there were some discussions, and Jacksonville, at the end, pulled him back from the trade, and they had agreed to two separate packages. One that was a solo Fred Johnson trade, another that was a Fred Johnson and Tank Bigsby trade together. In the end, ultimately, at that time, Jacksonville decided it only wanted to part ways with Fred Johnson, but obviously the Eagles remained interested in Tank Bigsby, went back to the well, and finally were able to pry him loose for a 5 and a 6.
Shefty, lastly, what's the status for Xavier Worthy for Sunday's game? I don't know how you play with a brace when you have that kind of an injury to your shoulder, but I'm not calling myself as tough as an NFL player. Andy Reid saying it's day to day. Do you believe Xavier Worthy will be playing Sunday against the Eagles?
My guess would be no. And if he does play, he'll play with a harness. And I don't know how effective he'll be with a harness when you're a little guy.
Welcome back into the Midday Show. I'm Ray Dunn, taking you through it here on The Fanatic. And you're ready for Eagles and Chiefs. And just judging by the YouTube chat, early returns here. And we got really good in terms of the way people are feeling about the game. Colby, I feel like a lot of people are about to learn Jalen Hurts. I'll be honest with you. Actually, no, I can't do that to you. Colby, you're right, because so many people at this point want to disparage the guy. But, and by the way, last night, I'm going to get into the Commanders-Packers game. Last night is a perfect example of why if you just scan a box score to grade your quarterbacks, you're missing out. Jaden Daniels, garbage time gold last night. That game was over, and he's putting up numbers. But whatever. Colby's saying I feel like a lot of people are about to learn Jalen Hurts. We got our guy Andrew. I like the Eagles to win. Josh all of a sudden feels great, even though he was nervous about it. He didn't see the Chiefs going 0-2. Again, that goes to the narrative versus on-field thing. We've talked about it a couple times this week. Frank saying he thinks the Eagles are about to go 10-1, end up at 14-3. All right. Tommy John feeling a dub on Sunday. Going to be a fun game to watch. High blood pressure. I also think we're going to be high blood pressure throughout that game. Colin, our guy Colin saying 28-23 win for the Birds. So everyone's feeling great. It's interesting. I don't know if we carry emotions across sport, and this is actually something Connor during our little breakdown here brought in, saying maybe everyone's feeling so high over the Phillies, and a week ago it was all right, yeah, the Birds are 1-0, Chiefs are 0-1. I also feel great about the Phillies. Maybe we're just carrying that wave of emotion of we're just unstoppable, just don't mess with us. I don't know. I don't know if people carry that energy across sports, but the way I feel the energy shifting today is the confidence is at a very, very high level. for a matchup with the team that did win the AFC last year. As much as you crushed them in the Super Bowl, is the reigning AFC champion. Interesting to see. One thing about this game that we have to look back to the Super Bowl for is that running game. And I think they're going to try and sell out again. I still think if you're going up against the Eagles, you're still selling out to beat Saquon Barkley. The Cowboys showed you that last week. The Chiefs showed you that in the Super Bowl. And Olivia Reiner was on with us yesterday from the Philadelphia Inquirer, covers the Eagles, and mentioned on second watch, it's not just that Landon Dickerson went down. They just weren't quite getting the same level of blocking that they did a year ago in the running game.
Seems to be an issue throughout the game. And, I mean, he did face a lot of stacked boxes. I think the number, according to Next Gen Stats, was over 66% of his carries came against those stacked boxes. And, listen, I think there were a lot of issues at play, but just watching the game back, I didn't think the blocking was up to the caliber that we have seen, especially last season from the Eagles. Whether that was out of 12 personnel sets, 13, it just wasn't. It was not up to snuff.
She did go on to say that part of that could be the availability of Dickerson, but in general, they did not get the dynamic running game they were looking for. So Olivia had that conversation with us yesterday. Then Jordan Mailata was available following practice yesterday, talking to the media. Jordan Mailata echoed that sentiment about just being one block away.
A lot to grow from, again, I feel like a broken record, but it's the same old song. We're one block away. And, you watch the tape, you can see it on the film. And, I think when heading into this week, we look at execution. And so that's a major emphasis this week. And so that starts with the communication and trying to simplify that, especially on the road. At Arrowhead, it's going to be really tough to be able to communicate. So simplifying and making sure that we break the huddle and our operation is clean and more swift. So that was a big takeaway.
That was the big takeaway for Jordan Mailata. They're one block away. Now, one block away is a great thing to say, not a great thing to watch with that running game. 6 carries in that fourth quarter for nothing for Saquon Barkley. That was the stat line in the fourth quarter of that game. It's important in a number of aspects. Obviously, you don't want this team to become one-dimensional. This team has been so dependent on the run before. All those things line up. Totally in line with just the Captain Obvious portion of this analysis. But when you look at the way the Eagles went following that weather delay, and you look at the way they won games a season ago, they were able to put you away with long, sustained drives. Saquon, we remember the 70-yard runs for all the fun that they were. But those 3-4-yard runs that just keep moving, keep time going when you get that lead early. Sometimes the greatest defense to a great offense on the other side is just not letting that offense get the ball. Patrick Mahomes, one of the great defenses to Patrick Mahomes is someone like Saquon Barkley, is something like this Eagles offense. If they're able to just run clock. And that was something that they tried to do against the Cowboys. Get conservative, have long drives, sustain that down the field. The issue is without a running game, it becomes very difficult to wear that down. They did have a 7-minute drive in that second half, and it did help them close that game up. But without coming away with points, it makes it a very precarious situation for you to allow the other team maybe a couple quick strikes, and all of a sudden you're trailing, and now you're going back to a more one-dimensional attack of having to throw to catch up. That's something that has to change this week. It's nice to say we're one block away, but you have to be able to find that execution this week, especially against this opponent, because that running game, as much as you were able to expose them in that Super Bowl, let's all be honest with ourselves, expose them in the passing game at least, expose them offensively through the air. Let's all be honest with ourselves. That defense puts you in a really great spot. Do you have that level of dominance on defense again right now? No, you don't. You're going to need to be able to run the ball better against the Chiefs this week. Again, I'm not saying Saquon's got to go for 200, but it's now a Super Bowl and week 1 where you've seen that running game not live up to what its expectations are, which are very high, and I understand that. But in order to put this team away and put this team at bay and start this season 2-0, it's going to take more from your rushing game in this matchup. And for them, it starts at a weird spot for us. We talked yesterday about how weird it is to talk about just how dominant the linebackers are for the Eagles because that's never been a storyline. It'll be weird for us if we get through September and we start saying, yeah, wait a second. That offensive line could be better for you right now. They acknowledged, you heard Jordan Mailata acknowledge they have to be better this week. It's not necessarily a concern. I think we all realize Stoutland U has pretty high marks for an institution. But it wasn't to the level you'd expect week one. And in week two, there's a question of, are you going to be able to answer the bell for that offensive line and for that running game against an opponent that was able to shut down that running game just 7 months ago? We'll see if that concern plays itself out come Sunday. And keeping with that offense, looking at the Chiefs and what they did in week one against the Chargers, it will require a little bit more from Hurts in this passing game in a way that they did not get it done week one against the Cowboys. I'll explain the way they played that Chargers offense in the first half in Sao Paulo on Friday and how it relates to the Eagles and Cowboys last Thursday night. I'm Ray Dunn. Take you to the Midday Show right here, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Do you feel unfulfilled? Do your afternoons feel like Groundhog Day because you keep hearing
Midday show here on The Fanatic. I'm Ray Dunn taking you through it. Sean Rodman producing the program today. I'm curious for people. How much do you like? Is there, I don't know necessarily rivalry, hatred? You got the Super Bowl back, and we're all kind of in that Super Bowl hangover-ish. Because I think there are still some people. Stanford Drexel Hill called us yesterday. Talked about, like, yeah, I can't really care about the A.J. Brown stuff yet because I think I'm still kind of drunk on the Super Bowl success. There is a little bit of that. I mean, I think that the first game is kind of a sobering moment for people after that Super Bowl hangover of like, all right, yeah, we got to lock in. We got to figure this out. And, you know, it's a new season. Is there, like, the vitriol for this Chiefs team? You beat them. You got revenge on the Super Bowl they got you just 2 years prior. Maybe I'm not wired. Maybe I'm not a good enough hater in the sense that I don't necessarily come into this one with, like, the vitriol towards them. I come into this one like, yeah, you just got to take care of business, a week 2 game. I'm curious, Sean Robin, do you find the hatred in your heart for this team?
For the Chiefs?
Yeah.
No, I don't have much hatred in my heart for the Chiefs. I don't know if that's because the Eagles beat them and now it's kind of gone. And, yeah, they're the big bad of the NFL previously with going for that three-peat, but I don't really have too much hatred for them. I guess probably partially because the Eagles got it done over them and got the win. And at the same time, I don't think they're the same level of what they once were.
That might be it. And being a team that beat them, like, I understand someone in Buffalo hating them. I understand someone in Baltimore hating them. I understand someone, even though you beat them in Cincinnati the 1 year to get to the, but, like, I understand someone in Cincinnati hating them. I would understand Cowboys, Commanders, Giants fans hating them just because they're the team that's there every year and you wish your team was that. I just don't necessarily get to the point where I hate this team. I don't know why. Because I know I hated the Patriots, and the Eagles beat the Patriots. So it should be pretty even in that regard. I should hate them the way that I hated that Patriots era. I just don't necessarily have that villain arc with them. And maybe it's because I'm drunk with Super Bowl success. And maybe it's because the Eagles got revenge on them so quickly. And I wasn't really nauseated by them at the beginning of their dynasty. And now the Eagles have been a part, like, became a thorn in their side in terms of them trying to get that three-peat. And in terms of them trying to cement their dynasty amongst the greatest of all time last year, I don't necessarily find the hate in my heart I feel like I should for this team, which is weird. It's odd for me. And to hear you say that you don't find it, I'm curious for people at 610-632-0975 if they find that hate in their heart for this Chiefs dynasty. I don't know why I don't find them as hateable as I found that Patriots dynasty. Mahomes does things that drive you crazy. You know, him getting the knocked out of bounds stuff, the flopping, the fact that he gets the calls, that'll drive you nuts. I get that. I understand somewhat. I guess I see the people that get annoyed with the Kelsey coverage. I've kind of gotten myself past it. I guess that maybe is part of why people are annoyed by them. They're on a ton of commercials. Maybe you get sick of seeing them. Maybe it's overexposure. Maybe you're tired of them, people talking about them. I just don't find them as hateable. And I'm curious for people if you feel like that's been developed. Because Nick Sirianni pointed out this week, every year that Sirianni has been here, this team has played the Chiefs. It is the Giants, the Commanders, the Cowboys, and the Chiefs. Those are the 4 teams that every single season the Eagles have played during the Sirianni tenure. Now, you remember all the Bucs games because it feels like there's been a million of those, but there was a year there where they didn't play them. The year they went to the Super Bowl and lost, 22, they didn't play them. So that's been another team they've seen a ton. And I'll tell you what, I hate that Bucs team, which is weird. It's weird to me that I hate that Bucs team, but I don't have that same hatred here for the Chiefs. I don't know. I think maybe it's the fact that you beat them and you beat them so soundly. Like, it's so much of, like, I've moved past it. All of the vitriol, all of the hatred, anything that I could feel to them, I just kind of felt was lifted. Like, somewhere around the dagger, I think it was like, all right, they hurt me before, but man, are we hurting them right now. And their three-peat dreams are crushed. The whole docuseries comes out, which I haven't watched, by the way. Did you watch The Kingdom?
I have not, no.
I didn't watch The Kingdom either. I'll be honest with you, I also didn't watch the Jerry Jones thing. I said I was going to watch one or two of them. The Jerry Jones thing seems like it's just such a trying to find the FCC compliant way to say this. It's such a puff piece of like, oh, when the Cowboys were great, weren't things so cool? It's like, all right, that's not really for me. That's not my style of content. You know, I'll watch the Last Dance because I'm interested in seeing Jordan's greatness. With the Cowboys trading away Parsons in the midst of this whole like the gambler and America's team thing, it's like, yeah, there's a reason why they haven't enjoyed that success for a while. And maybe I'm not close enough to the Bulls situation because they've had a similar thing where they haven't been able to sustain any success. But I enjoyed watching Jordan's greatness. I don't really have the same reverence for the Cowboys' greatness as him. So maybe that's why. But I look at this Chiefs team, and I'm curious for people. I just don't find that hatred. And, like, obviously, come Sunday, it's going to be, go Birds. And, you know, you're going to drop into bleep the Chiefs. Let's go 2-0. Let's stick it to them after the Super Bowl. But there is nothing for me that, like, at this point after the Super Bowl where I'm like, yeah, I hate this group. You need to beat down on this group. I'm rooting for the Eagles the way I'm rooting for the Eagles every week. And that's just to win a football game. I don't really feel like that much more like I'm sticking it to Mahomes. I'm sticking it to Andy Reid. I'm sticking it to Travis Kelce. I just feel like I'm trying to watch a team go 2-0 this week. And I'm curious for you at 610-632-0975 if you found that hatred in your heart for this group. Because I haven't. And I think it, again, somewhere around the dagger, I was like, wow, they just embarrassed them. They took their lunch money. Like, I remember I was texting with some people at halftime. And the joke was, like, this was going to be the highlight of the game for me because I was going to enjoy the halftime show. But, like, for a lot of people, I think around the country, you watch the halftime show, you're like, all right, this game's over. Like, this, like, hey, this, halftime show's done. All right. We got to see the halftime show. Maybe you watched a little bit further there. Once I got to 34-0, I imagine there were Americans that were like, all right, I got work in the morning. Or we're gonna beat the traffic, get home from the Super Bowl party. You know? Or some of you out there that are at Super Bowl parties in Philadelphia, you know what? Let's hit Broad Street early. You know, let's get out there and start pouring out into the streets. You know? Like, I don't necessarily think there's that hatred because you just embarrassed them so badly the last time that I can't find myself caught up in, like, despising them. Do you find that hatred? Is this a rivalry at this point? Maybe it's turned into I don't know. I feel like I have to have that hatred for them. Maybe if they come out and beat the Eagles on Sunday, maybe that'll change. But right now, I can't find that rivalry in my heart. I can't find that hatred. I'm curious from you at 610-632-0975 if you find that in your heart for the Chiefs, because I think it just comes down to you embarrassed them on the national stage. The get back was so much better than the time they beat you in the Super Bowl. And that was exciting. Yeah, maybe they have one of your Lombardis, but the Lombardi you got last year kind of quelled me in my hatred of them. I mentioned getting that offense going. We'll get to it. A.J. Brown, we played the audio for you yesterday of him addressing the passing game. How will they address that passing game? Manufacturer was the word of the week when it came to Sirianni and Patullo, and how a similarity between what the Chiefs tried to do to the Chargers and what the Cowboys tried to do to the Eagles gives us what will probably be the difference in that passing game coming up on Sunday. How you feeling about this Eagles-Chiefs matchup? You get it at 610-632-0975. I'm Ray Dunn. Take it to the midday show here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Now on 97.5 The Fanatic Sports Update.
Bills sweep the Mets. I'm Sean Rodman, and the Phillies come from behind last night after giving up 4 runs in the first to complete the 4-game sweep, which puts the magic number at 4 for the NL East division title. Phillies host the Royals in a 3-game series tonight. Walker Buehler gets the start tonight for the Phillies in his Phillies debut. Buehler had a 5.45 ERA this season with the Boston Red Sox prior to his release, and former Philly Michael Lorenzen gets the start for the Royals tonight. First pitch is at 6:45. The Birds head to Kansas City this weekend for a Super Bowl rematch. Landon Dickerson and Jalix Hunt both practiced in full yesterday after being limited on Wednesday. Dallas Goedert, Tanner McKee, and Will Shipley all did not practice yesterday for a second straight day. We'll keep you updated on the injury report once we get it later today. Nick Sirianni is scheduled to speak to the media at 11:50. We'll carry that live for you, and Matt Derrick of Chiefs Digest will join us at 11:25, as well as ESPN's Tim McManus joining us at 12:55. This update is brought to you by Mercedes-Benz. Looking for an exceptional driving experience? Experience the power, precision, and intelligence of an iconic Mercedes-Benz SUV at your local Mercedes-Benz dealer today. I'm Sean Rodman on the home of the best Birds coverage, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
This is your wheelhouse, too. Offensive line How do you think Tyler Steen looked as the starting right guard?
I mean, it's like he started all last year. He had a phenomenal game. He showed presence out there. He wasn't just in there filling in. He showed that I wanted a position. He was, very, very explosive out there. He put his hands on people. He was moving people. He looked like a day one starter, like he should have been there last year. I was totally impressed on Tyler Steen and how he approached this game. I mean, kudos to, Coach Stoutland making sure he's ready to play. And I tell you what, I had rave reviews for him all through the post game, the other night, and just the way he played. So big ups to him going out there and really showing and imposing his will on that offense as an offensive lineman.
How are teams kind of looking at the Phillies when it comes to playoff baseball?
Know how people here look at the Phillies, but I also get to hear how people on the outside look at them. And here's the phrase that GM-type figures in two front offices use to describe them to me just in the last few weeks. They both said, that's the best team we played all year. And these are two guys, their teams they both have winning records, so they're not just saying that. One of them said to me, when he looks at the Mets, he sees a team that isn't that different from his team or any of these teams in this pack. But when he looks at the Phillies, he sees a team that runs a starting pitcher out there every night, or just about every night, that's better than his team's pitcher and better than most teams' pitcher. And that's still true even without Zach Wheeler, which really opened my eyes. He said he told the other guys in his front office, he said, you know what, I think we've got a nice team. But when I look at that team, that's the varsity, and the rest of us are the JV. And the other thing is the numbers bear that out. The Phillies have won more series against teams with winning records than any other team in baseball.
This is your wheelhouse, too. Offensive line. How do you think Tyler Steen looked as the starting right guard?
Closing in on the 11 o'clock hour here on 97.5 The Fanatic, WPEN HD1, Burlington, Philadelphia, Beasley Media Group station, broadcasted live from the Comcast Business Studio. Power possibilities. Feeling good. Not great. Certainly not bad. Good about the Super Bowl rematch. This is the better team. There's a lot of narrative-based things that would make you believe that the Chiefs have a chance in this one. They do have one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. They've one of the best coaches of all time. They've got one of the best defensive coordinators of all time. But on the Eagles side of things, the Eagles do have one of the best defensive coordinators as well. And quite frankly, they're just the better team. You just size up these two rosters. Chiefs also banged up. We are going to get a report on the Chiefs coming up at 11:25. Matt Derrick of Chiefs Digest will join us to break down the matchup and look at what's going on from the Chiefs side of things, the message inside of that building, and what he expects from Sunday. Let's go to the text line for what you might expect from Sunday. Let's start, though, with the Chiefs' hatred, because I'm curious. I want to know how much people really feel. I saw it kind of in the YouTube chat going where people were like, yeah, I don't like them, but it hasn't really raised to that hatred level for me, and I think it's because it dropped from a hatred level after that Super Bowl win. What do you got on the text line?
All right, first off, we have Kevin in Pine Hill checking in. He says, for me, it's too much respect for Andy Reid to have that type of hate.
But did you not have that same level of respect for Belichick? Because, again, I feel like maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I was just young, naive, dumb. All those things could still apply. But maybe I was in the Patriots era of things where I was like, nah, I hate that group.
Part of that for the Patriots era has got to be the Spygate, the Flakegate, all of those various gates.
I just got so sick of them, you know? And I think you could still hear it. We were talking yesterday. I watched the Billy Joel documentary, like the first part of it, and we were talking about like what you could watch for 5 hours, like whose life story would you want to see for 5 hours, and I could even feel the hate pouring out of me when Austin was like, yeah, Tom Brady. And I was like, am I really interested in 5 hours worth of Tom Brady content? And I was like, ooh, that's probably a little bit of hater energy from me. I'm probably hating a little bit when it comes to that. And I think I still have a little bit of that hatred flowing through me. So I don't know. I guess maybe it's because Andy was here and you have that respect for him because it's like, well, they got to give some credit to Philadelphia and you're okay with him being as good as he is. What else we got on the hatred on the text line?
Emmy from Port Richmond checking in saying that it's like the Seinfeld Even Stevens episode. One Super Bowl win against each other.
You see one Super Bowl go, you find another. I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe it's an even Steven thing. Maybe if there was a third Super Bowl, that's when we would start to really count the score and hate them. But you would think that this has turned into some sort of, like, when we watch on Sunday, it's a game on Fox. So I don't know how you feel about the Fox NFL Sunday pregame. I grew up on it. That just kind of felt like my Sunday morning. I would watch, at noon and lead up to the kickoff. So that's been my pregame of choice for a long time. I will say, every time I think that I've watched the last of Terry Bradshaw on that show, the next fall he pops up on that show again. Every year I'm like, I think Terry's going to retire after this year. Last year when they did that whole weird holographic, like, Jimmy Johnson's retiring thing. I remember that. It was like Jimmy Johnson talking to young Jimmy Johnson.
Yep.
Like, all right. I was like, all right. So he's retiring. I was like, but if they're giving him this, and I'm not seeing anything for Terry Bradshaw, Bradshaw expects to be back next year. Like, here's what I'll give you a little bit of tip, Fox. Derek Carr did tremendous for the YouTube broadcast on Friday. How about we give Terry the old, farewell tour this year, and you go hire Derek Carr. We'll get some Gruden impressions on there. We get another quarterback on there. It works out. All right? How about that? I know there's other people probably that are doing the Fox NFL Sunday 11 o'clock show that want to slide in there. Gronkowski found his way onto that panel, which, oh, man. An hour of Gronk, that's a little much. I like Gronk for the gimmicks. I'm not sure I like Gronk for the hour-long analysis piece of everything. What? You're shaking your head. You disagree? You big?
No, I'm with you. I can't. I'm not a Gronk fan at all either. I could do very much
the
do
gimmicks. I could do it like the Gronk gimmick. I could do.
Yeah, sure.
Gronk's the type of guy like if he did one of those, like they did the Gronkowski brother cruise thing. I imagine that's a great time.
Yeah, a cruise with those guys, of course it would be.
You don't necessarily. Not every person that you think grabbing a beer with that would be interesting is someone that would be interesting for an hour on television.
No, that's like one of the buddies you want to hang out with, once every 6 months.
He's the buddy you would enjoy hanging out Friday with. You don't want to spend your Saturday afternoon getting lectured about life from.
No.
That's the kind of the buddy that I would label him as. But anyway, when they're doing their show on Fox NFL Sunday, I imagine they're going to call this a rivalry or something like that. They're going to call this, they're going to do the Super Bowl rematch. It's become a bit of a rivalry back. I just don't feel that way about them. I know people don't feel that way about the hatred. Let's get to the people's confidence. How confident are people feeling about this one?
All right, let's go to the first person. Here's Norm from Mayfair. He goes, the Mets won't make the playoffs. The Phillies will be number 1 seed, and the Eagles win 31-13 over the Chiefs. They are not scary anymore.
Double digit. It's just, again, it's early in the season for me. If they beat them 31-13, I can guarantee you Monday morning nationally the reaction will be the Chiefs are dead. That'll be the Monday morning reaction will be the Chiefs have officially seen their best come and go. I think that's where you'll get from people on Monday morning. 31-13. You think they're holding them that to 13 points? Let me put it to you this way. I feel more confident in the Eagles scoring 31 points than holding the Chiefs to 13 points. I see more of a 30-plus. Then again, I had a pretty low score total for the Chiefs as well. So maybe. Without top 2 receivers, we think. We'll ask Matt Derrick of Chiefs Digest coming up at 11:25 about Xavier Worthy and what he's expecting from him. All right, one more confidence text for us.
All right, Sean from Santa Vincent checking in says, Eagles throw early and often, run later. I think they control this game, especially in the second half. Chiefs don't have enough to compete with us. Eagles win 30-20, and it's not close, as the score says.
Oh, all right. So a little bit of not even a cover, but like a late garbage time touchdown to pad the stats for Mahomes. Okay. So a lot of confidence in this area. He brings up the passing game, which is important. So if you go back and look at what the Eagles had to face against the Cowboys, we all have talked so much about this zone defense, what they threw out there, the fact that Hurts took what they gave him. It was boring, but it was brilliantly boring, and the fact that they were rolling early on to score. Everyone after the weather delay obviously did not do well offensively, but they were able to start getting rolling by taking what the Cowboys defense gave you in the zone. It's interesting to apply that now to what the Chiefs did against the Chargers in Week 1. Because the Chiefs in the first half of Week 1 against the Chargers were in zone a ton. They threw that a lot at them. Now the question is, and this was something that I think actually likening to what Derek Carr broke down for the YouTube broadcast on Friday, he did a really good job of pointing out just how gutsy Justin Herbert was against that zone a number of times and trying to pick that apart. Like, oh, here's a throw. He's trying to line up between 2 defenders. That bit of a risk here. The Eagles being as risk-averse as they were in that first game and Hurts being as risk-averse as they were in that first game feels like they were so set on just taking what was in front of them. I think there has to be a more concerted effort to push it down the field. And there has to be at least, again, you're not forcing things. The big word of the week between Patullo and Sirianni was manufacture versus forcing targets. Not necessarily forcing targets, but a little bit more grip it and rip it this week from Jalen Hurts. Like, you got to be able to attack that second level. And it's not that he can't, it's just that they haven't. And I respect him taking what was in front of him, but watching what was the driving force of letting the Chargers be in control of that game was saying, okay, we're going to beat them to the spot here. You've got A.J. Brown. Trust A.J. Brown to make that play. Trust A.J. Brown to get where he needs to go. Trust Devontae Smith to get where he needs to go. That, I think, needs to be more on display this week. And it's not that I don't think that he could do it. It's just more that I think this week than ever, it's not about, hey, we're going to be able to respond to beat this Cowboys team. It's, this is what the Chiefs are giving you. Now, they ended up, as they fell behind, really blitzing more in that second half. They went more man. And I think if you get them into the situation where the second half they're coming after you, they're in a man defense, they're blitzing you, we're going to be talking about how A.J. Brown had all the bounce-back game of bounce-back games. Because if he gets a lot of man coverage in that second half, I think we're going to be talking about the Eagles doing a really, really good job of going away in that game and probably 100-plus yards for him. But it starts with them beating that zone early in the way that the Chargers were able to beat that zone early. And some of that is being a little more risky and not necessarily forcing the ball to A.J. Brown because they don't want to call it forcing it to him, but manufacturing those opportunities and manufacturing that opportunity against the zone. That'll be something that has to stick out. Again, if the Eagles only have one pass that goes beyond 10 yards in the air in this game, I don't think they win. It's to me not the winning formula against this group. And it's not really a winning formula in the NFL. For as much as we talk about explosive plays, and my brain is so rotten and like so broken. You know what I think of when I think of explosive plays now?
What's that?
The Jonathan Gannon clip. That's the only thing I could get. Like when I say explosive plays, all I could think is the explosive, explosive. Where he was talking, was it Rondell Moore? When he got
Shots. Explosive.
That's legitimately, when I say explosive plays, unfortunately, that's what goes through my brain. That's how, like, broken my brain is. Like, it's content brain is what it is. But it's all I could think of when I hear explosive play. Like, but to that point, in an NFL that rewards that, they have to find it this week through the air, and they have to take advantage of the advantage they do have on the outside there. And it's going to take them actually pressing it a little bit more down the field against the zone. I understand taking what they give you, especially without Goddard. I don't know if they could be as risk-averse as they were in week 1 and still come out with a victory in this one. Coming up, I want to get back to some Phillies conversation here. We also got someone on the line want to talk about hatred for the Chiefs. I'm interested to see it because I just don't know why I don't feel it the same way. But getting to some Phillies conversation before we talk to Matt Derrick of Chiefs Digest coming up at 11:25. I asked for one thing yesterday. I got it in that Phillies game. And then I got the sweep, which was also awesome in its own right. We'll talk about that coming up. I'm Ray Dunn, taking you through middays here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Attention, Delaware Valley. 97.5 The Fanatics Unfiltered with Ricky Bowe and
Oh, Robin, you're going to miss a good time. I'm Ray Dunn hanging out here on the Midday Show. I just got confirmation of another Fanatic employee making their way to Temple, Oklahoma tomorrow at the link.
You're making me have FOMO now.
Oh, you should. You absolutely should. Our football guy. He's not going to watch the Eagles at the link this weekend, but he's watching the Owls.
Might have to be a little late to this birthday party.
That's decisions you made. Decisions you made, man. I get to hang out with the Andrews tomorrow. I'm looking
Both
forward
Andrews.
to it. Yeah. Salciunas,
Wow.
the Checo. We have another Andrew here?
Not that I'm aware of. Off
No.
the top of my head.
I was like, whoa, I'm really going to offend someone here. Andrews. Do we have more Andrews than any other name?
Well, Brendan's. We have a
Oh, yeah, we got a million Brendans.
Brandon.
Yeah, Brandons. Yeah, a ton of them. But yeah, looking forward to it tomorrow at the link. Noon kickoff. You better believe I'm getting the lots early for 1 or 2. I got work at night. I can't really be enjoying too much. I'm gonna hang out. Hey, good to see you. And then it's Salciunas. I'm excited for it. Should be a good one tomorrow. On top of that, speaking of things I'm getting excited for, as we get you ready for Eagles Chiefs, of course, excited for that. I've been a little bit more active on TikTok recently. I'm trying to, get some content up there, just trying to work the algorithm a little bit. The algorithm's figuring me out because in that break, I was on TikTok. Get Me to the Plate Boys came on to the timeline. Ryan Howard, game time double against the Rockies. Last night and this week has gotten me so ready for Red October. I hate to say it. I keep trying to fight the feeling, man. I can't fight the feeling. There's something special going on here. This team just keeps responding. Every time I keep telling this team they're down, they're like, shut up, Ray. We're not. It's beautiful. I love it. Oh, going tonight, I think, for the last time in the regular season. And I'm sad that that's the case, but we got to save some dollars for those postseason games. We got to get ourselves in there for some Red October. All right, I asked this question just because I can't find it necessarily. I can't find that level of hatred that I've gotten to before, especially with that Patriots dynasty. I can't find it for the Chiefs right now, and I'm curious why I haven't. I want to go to the phone lines here at 610-632-0975 to talk to Jimmy at Bucks County about it. Jimmy, you're on 97.5 The Fanatic.
What's going on, guys?
How are you?
I love the show. I'm always tuning in to you guys.
Appreciate that.
So, the question is, do we have any hatred towards the Chiefs?
Do you?
I have more hatred. Me?
Yeah.
No. No. Look, I know they're a good team, but I think we should do good this week. I think the Eagles should be very good this week.
I'm
curious. If Jalen Hurts take care of the ball and Saquon Barkley does what they did last year, I think we can win on the running game.
All right, so you think they can win on the running game. What do you think changes from the Super Bowl to this game that allows them to run it better?
I really can't say because I like Barkley, and I like our quarterback. I love the quarterback, but I think Barkley, I think he was good last year. I think he's going to be good this year. I think we can definitely repeat as Super Bowl champions.
That's fair. And you said you got something on the Phils?
Okay. 2 games scare me with that. I know we got Kansas City this week.
Yep.
That's going to scare me a little bit, knowing how good Kansas City is. And then we get the Dodgers. Dodgers are pretty good.
Yeah, so it's a tough.
Really,
it's a tough 10-game stretch coming up here. It's a tough 10-game stretch for you. That like the Mets leading into these 2 series. This series, I'll say it. I actually had this on the sheet. The one thing I feared looking ahead to this weekend. This is the ultimate look ahead. This is the ultimate sandwich spot for the Phillies. You got the Dodgers at the starter next week, and you're coming off of just absolutely kicking the crap out of your division rival that's owned you and knocked you out of the playoffs last year. This is the ultimate look ahead weekend. And you also have 2 walkers, Bueller and Taiwan, going today and tomorrow, which might not help necessarily. Maybe Walker Bueller comes out and dazzles us, and we're like, wow, what a great job. And Taiwan, maybe that's not fair given the season that he's had. I tend to think that he's getting close to that portion of the season where he's been a lot of his career where that second half starts to get to him. But this is the ultimate look-ahead spot. Like, they went 2-3 over Kansas City. I'll come away tremendously impressed because this is the ultimate, like, yeah, we took care of our business this week, and we got the Dodgers at the start of next week. It's like, could you see them showing up to L.A., having dropped 2-3 to Kansas City at home? Yeah, I could. I absolutely could. If they want that top seed, they can't have it happen, really. I love that. I actually did one of my own pet peeves right there. You know, like when the broadcaster does, like, they want to get back into this game. So you're assuming they don't? If they want to go get that top seed, are you assuming they don't? Like, it's one of my pet peeves. Did you catch that right there?
I did.
It drives me nuts, and I do it myself. So it's not like I'm so superior to anyone else. You just heard me do it. But it's like, I don't know if it's like a broadcaster crutch or something like that, a commentator crutch, sports talk radio crutch, where you're like, well, if they're really serious about it, like, why wouldn't they be serious about it? If they want to win the division, what are we doing? They want to come back in this game. If they don't want to come back in this game, somebody just wave the white flag. Let's all go home. Of course they want to come back in this game. But it's one of the things that drives me nuts. I heard myself just do it. I catch myself in that one. Because if I'm going to sit at home and say, come on, man, what are you doing? I'm going to catch myself in that one. But this does have like a real look-ahead feel to this weekend, where it's like, I could absolutely see this weekend being like, they dropped 2-3, and then they go to L.A. and win 2-3, and it's like we show up here Monday like, what did this weekend tell us? And then they respond to us in L.A. with nothing. Absolutely nothing. We're still a good baseball team. But I will say, last night, I asked for Jesus Luzardo to prove himself to be the third starter in the postseason. And through one inning, I was like, oh, crap, we're doing the Luzardo conversation tomorrow alongside Eagles Chiefs. And then the next 7 innings, I was like, this guy has been tremendous. This guy might have put together the greatest start I've ever seen in which a starting pitcher's allowed 4 earned. Weird sentence, but true.
You notice he topped out at 99?
Dude, he was late in that game, rolling up the velocity. He was hitting 99 like the 7th, the 8th.
Yeah, I was at the game and I was like, whoa, that looked a little quicker. And I looked up to see it say 99. I was like, how the hell is he throwing 99 in the 8th?
Real scary hours for a postseason team. They're making me buy back, man. They're doing it to me.
And we had concerns about Luzardo's work rate.
Uh-huh.
And he's still able to throw this?
Well, now with the 6-man, you could kind of max these guys out at the end of the season a little bit. That 8th inning in a 6-man rotation, you get an extra day. Yeah, go out there, take the 8th. He wanted the 9th. Shout out to Thompson being like, yeah, no, man. Middle of that order again, seeing you. Let's relax. All right. We got Duran for a reason. He's going to go take care of this one. All right, coming up, we got Matt Derrick of Chiefs Digest to talk about the Chiefs side of this matchup. Where are they after the 0-1 start? What do they expect coming into this weekend? The health of Xavier Worthy. We're going to get to all of it. Coming up next, I'm Ray Dunn, taking you through the midday show here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Now on 97.5 The Fanatic Sports Update.
Phillies sweep the Mets. I'm Sean Rodman, and the Phillies come from behind last night after giving up 4 runs in the first to complete the 4-game sweep, which puts the magic number at 5 for the NL East division title. Phillies host the Royals in a 3-game series this weekend. Walker Buehler gets a start tonight for the Phils in his Phillies debut. Buehler has had a 5.45 ERA this season with the Boston Red Sox prior to his release, and former Philly Michael Lorenzen gets the start for the Royals tonight. First pitch is at 6:45. The Birds head to Kansas City this weekend for a Super Bowl rematch. Landon Dickerson and Jalix Hunt both practiced in full yesterday after being limited on Wednesday. Dallas Goedert, Tanner McKee, and Will Shipley all did not practice again yesterday for a second straight day. We'll keep you updated on the injury report once we get it later today. Nick Sirianni is scheduled to speak to the media at 11:50. We'll carry that live for you. And coming up next, Matt Derrick of Chiefs Digest will join the show. This update is brought to you by Wawa. Wawa's newest $6 meal deal. Choose a shorty hoagie, chicken sandwich, or wrap, plus a small fountain drink and Hearst chips, all for $6. Gotta have Wawa. I'm Sean Rodman on the home of the best Birds coverage, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
A Chiefs offense without Rashee Rice and without Xavier Worthy, I mean, now you're down to, I get it, Travis Kelce's still a guy who can make some plays, and Marquise Brown had 10 catches for 99 yards. When has ever a Chiefs receiver caught 10 passes and not even had 100 yards? So I think that's and this is a Chiefs team that was really trying this preseason and going into this year to try to get back to being a vertical offense. They really haven't had that. So, I mean, without those two guys, if Marquise Brown, who's not a bad receiver, but certainly not, not a guy that you like CeeDee Lamb, right? If that's their number one target out there, I think the secondary is not going to be, scared to death. So as long as you get a good pass rush and don't give Mahomes time to pick you apart and, find guys in the zone like Kelsey or Marquise Brown, then they should be all right. So I would say the pass rush it's got to be on them to get the job done. I think, obviously, if you're going to have that kind of game plan where everything is very short and fast and quick, you have to be decisive, and Jalen Hurts was. I know he had 4 incompletions, but 3 of them were on throwaway. So I think really only one, and one was a drop, if I'm not mistaken. I think there was only one ball Jalen Hurts threw that hit the ground that was, say, his fault. So that's pretty good. He was very, very efficient. I would expect that was a little bit of an anomaly and that you will see that more, especially because the Chiefs are a little bit more aggressive defensively.
Now the Eagles get ready for the Super Bowl rematch as it's all being, put out this week, that it's the Eagles and the Chiefs again. Now, we were talking this morning. We don't believe that it was 40-6 when the starters went out. We don't believe the two teams were that lopsided in talent against each other. But the beatdown on that day was very visible. To see Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes get taken out like that, what do you think they've got cooking for Sunday? And Steve Spagnuolo.
I think that it's going to be a tough challenge because, look,
that's when he's scheduled. Nick Sirianni will address the media. We will carry that live for you here on the Midday Show. I'm Ray Dunn taking you through the show today here on 97.5 The Fanatic. But right now for you on the Comcast Business Hotline, we're going to get the opportunity to look at this game from the opposing side of view. He's the man that wrote the book, Patrick Mahomes, Showtime, the book At Last, about that Chiefs championship. He is Matt Derrick, covers the team for Chiefs Digest. Matt, thank you for coming on today.
How are you guys doing this morning?
I'm doing pretty great. I'm actually really curious to see how things are going in Kansas City right now because for the, third, fourth, maybe fifth year in a row, the national media September storyline of Are the Chiefs Cooked continues. And I'm curious to see how Kansas City's dealing with an 0-1 start.
Yeah, during the offseason, the media storyline that the Chiefs dynasty is over was amusing, I think, the Chiefs fans. They're not quite ready to declare that. Week 1, the sky's not falling, but there's a lot of fans that are looking to see if it's falling. This team starts off 0-2, and especially losing the revenge game. If they come out flat again on Sunday, there's going to be a lot of fans that are super concerned. I don't sense it with the team yet. I think it's more the fans. But hey, the Chiefs played 2 games 7 months apart, and they weren't very spirited in either one of them. And so it's a trend. I don't know if 2 games 7 months apart really is a convincing trend, but it's just been a concern for this fan base. I can tell you that.
All right, let's take from the concerns outside the fan base. You mentioned inside those 4 walls. What's the messaging this week for the Chiefs leading up to the Super Bowl rematch?
Yeah, it is that they can't let what happened in Week 1 happen again. And it's a little bit even the same messaging that came after the Super Bowl. Andy Reid said that day was a bad day to have a bad day. I don't think that was exactly the case in Brazil. And like you mentioned, there were a lot of logistics. And I always feel like international games, you throw it out the window. There's so many weird things that happen. I don't know that there's really a favorite in international games. It sometimes just seems completely random, and I don't know that there's a lot of takeaways unless it's then backed up by other data points. And so that's why we'll see what happens in this game on Sunday. But the effort that this team put out was not normal. It was not what this team normally expects. And there was a lot of deficiencies, especially the line play was the real concern, and that's where this team knows that it needs to double down. The pass rush was really weak on the defensive side. Justin Herbert had all day in the world to throw, and then if he didn't have anybody open, he had lanes to scramble. You cannot do that against Jalen Hurts. Chiefs know that. So they know they got to win that side of it, and they didn't protect Patrick Mahomes, and they didn't create any openings on the ground game. So they got beat on both sides of the line, and that's where they know that this game is, I think, going to be won on Sunday. It's going to be who wins the battle in the trenches.
It's so funny you bring that up. From our side of things, talking back to that Super Bowl and looking at some of the things that happened there, getting pressure was obviously a massive point that led to what happened for the Eagles, getting pressure on Patrick Mahomes. Some of the names have changed for the Eagles, but take me through a little bit more of the concern on that offensive line and the concern of protecting Patrick Mahomes, because as much as we talk about the personnel changing for the Eagles, you mentioned on the Chiefs side just what you didn't see in terms of projection Week 1.
Yeah, the Chiefs have 2 spots that nobody's concerned about. Centers Creed Humphrey, right guard Trey Smith. Trey Smith just got paid in the offseason, highest paid guard in the league. Creed Humphrey's the highest paid center in the league. Those guys are great. Jawan Taylor, his deficiency has been penalties, and he had a rash of penalties in Week 1. We've seen this before sometimes with Jawan Taylor. He starts getting into a mode where he goes off the snap cadence of the quarterback. He doesn't go on watching the football when he moves. And hey, you get into a loud environment like Brazil was, that can put him into a bad stretch. And he had 2 or 3 false starts. He can also just go into a decline where he gets a couple of false starts, and then all of a sudden there's a hold, and next thing you know, Juwan's had 4 or 5 penalties, and things have just gotten really away from him. He's going to be better this week, and and what's one of the things that Matt Nagy, offensive coordinator, said regarding Jawan Taylor is that it's been made clear that can't happen again. So I don't know that he's necessarily on a short leash yet, because they do have Jalen Moore, but they're going to give Jawan Taylor every opportunity, I think, to continue to hold on to that spot. But the fact that they do have Jalen Moore in reserve opens up the possibility that, hey, if he struggles, they could go to the bench. The 2 other question marks are left tackle with rookie Josh Simmons, the first-round draft pick, and left guard Kingsley Suamataia, who was the second-round pick 2 years ago. With Simmons, there's a lot of upside. There's still just a lot for him to learn. Had a pretty good, I think, debut in Week 1. But he's going to make mistakes. They know that. And that's the concern against going up within the Eagles' defensive front. That, yeah, a couple of names have changed, but it is still good. And, Jalen Carter, maybe a motivated Jalen Carter going up against Kingsley Suamataia, that could be a matchup to watch because Kingsley, he's converted from tackle to guard, struggled at tackle last year, they moved him to guard this year. Hey, so far, shows some promise, but there's a long way to go for him. He can maybe be prone to make mistakes. And, last year what got him into trouble was, one mistake turned into another. He does that against the Eagles, and it could be a rough day for him.
And taking this to the big picture of the offense, Mahomes leading the team in rushing. Mahomes having to run for his life a number of times, given what we just went over in terms of pass protection for him. We know how tremendous he is as a quarterback, one of the all-time greats. He can make magic happen on any given play. But how far can this team go when it's just Mahomes trying to drag you to the finish like what you saw in Brazil?
Yeah, I mean, well, we saw, I think, last year is probably a great example. I mean, this offense was number 15 in the league. They gave him absolutely zero protection on the left side of that offensive line. His receivers were dropping like flies to the point where all he had left was the rookie Xavier Worthy. Travis Kelce's 36 years old now, going to be 36 years old this year. There's not much left in the tank for Travis Kelce. So you kind of saw that. I mean, if he's got the 15th ranked offense in the league, and he somehow still managed to drag that team to the Super Bowl. If he gets a little bit of help, this team can be back in the Super Bowl again. That's not a problem. But it's just, where's that help going to come from? Kelce, I think you saw that on Friday. He got tired. He can't be necessarily the same tight end that he's been before in the past. They've got to manage his snap counts a little bit more. Load management is definitely something that needs to be done there. And then when you lose Xavier Worthy on the third snap of the game, it's the same thing that this team went through the last couple of years, having to play without their top wide receivers. You go out without your Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy. I mean, you're sending Mahomes out there with literally just nothing to work with. And that's no knock on Hollywood Brown. It's no knock on Tyquan Thornton and Juju Smith-Schuster. I mean, those were the only essentially three receivers he played with on Friday night. But, those guys are not Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy. So, that's what Mahomes needs, and he just needs some guys to stay healthy and give him some positive performances. And, last week, really all he had was Hollywood Brown. And Hollywood is even coming back from an ankle injury. He's been dinged up, so I don't even think he's 100%. He needs a little bit of help. I don't know where it's going to come from in the short term with Worthy banged up and Rashee Rice suspended. But if the Chiefs by the end of the season at least can give him at least a little bit of help, that Patrick Mahomes can drag this team as far as he can.
We're talking to Matt Derrick here of Chiefs Digest. You mentioned Worthy there. What is your anticipation for his availability on Sunday?
Well, I'm pretty sure that the Chiefs coaching staff is hoping that everybody in Philadelphia, including Nick Sirianni and all of his coaches, saw Xavier Worthy on the practice field, because I'm pretty sure they were the audience for that. Watching Worthy go through drills yesterday with what appears to be a dislocated shoulder. Chiefs haven't really come out and said what he has, but that's certainly what it looks and sounds like, and has been speculated by some of the national reporters. But he did not look like a guy that was going to be playing on Sunday. So I think they were just trying to see if they could get the Eagles to spend any amount of time working on Xavier Worthy. Am I ruling it out? No, because one thing we've learned about Xavier in his time in Kansas City is that he's tough as nails. Not the biggest guy in the world, but he's tough. I just can't see playing through that injury, especially the way that he looked out yesterday. Was very ginger, really wasn't doing anything with that right arm. He was throwing a football left-handed. He's not left-handed. Threw it pretty well left-handed, but he's not a lefty. So I think even some of the things he did, he put both his arms above his head at one point, and I'm pretty sure that was just for our benefit.
Well, in that case, from the Eagles side of things, we will look at that second corner spot that we've been talking about so much in Philadelphia and feel a little bit better about who might be matching up with one of the outside corners that's not Quinyon Mitchell in this game. But that brings me to the point of we have so many talking points here in Philadelphia about, what does this have to go right? What does have to go right here? What's the biggest thing in Kansas City this week leading up to the Super Bowl rematch that people are talking about in terms of the Chiefs finding a way to win this football game?
Yeah, I mean, it seems crazy to be talking about it, but it's effort and energy. There's absolutely no doubt. I mean, even though the Eagles won that Super Bowl with just a dominating performance in the line, I thought, but they just had more energy that day. They outworked the Chiefs. They out-physicaled them. And the same thing happened in Brazil against the Chargers. The Chiefs got outworked, out-hustled, out-hit. They can't do that again. This team absolutely has to come out there with more energy. They can't be flat again. Like I said, I mean, coming out flat 2 games in a row, 7 months apart, I don't know if it's a trend, but you do it in 2 back-to-back weeks, and then it's going to start to become one. I have a hard time believing that's going to be the case. I think if this team comes out with the fire that it knows that it can play with, then this is going to be a really entertaining football game, I think. But that's where it's got to start. And then after that, you get into the execution. And again, I mean, it's going to be the play up front. If the offensive line of the Chiefs can protect Mahomes, if the defensive line can get in, and what they really want to do with quarterbacks like Jalen Hurts is that they just want to force him to be in the pocket. And Jalen Hurts, we know he can beat you from the pocket. He almost did that in the 2022 Super Bowl. But that's their strategy. The Chiefs just do not want to let a guy like Jalen Hurts beat them with his feet. So they want to hem him in the pocket, force him to beat them with his arm, and if he does that, they'll tip the cap. They just don't want to give the game away like they did last year.
And is that including, like, you expect kind of defensively the same approach in terms of shutting down Saquon Barkley and what you just laid out there of keeping Hurts in the pocket?
Yeah, that's a great question because the Chiefs and Steve Spagnuolo readily admitted that against the Chargers, they went into that game trying to stop the run, and the Chargers bewildered them by not really running the football. They came out throwing and often and early, and the Chiefs were slow to adjust. So, hey, they did a great job taking Saquon out of the Super Bowl. Well, that didn't matter because everybody else was great. And I think maybe they were so focused on the run that they just didn't pay enough attention to the pass. This time around, I think they realize that they've got to be more balanced. They can't sell out against the run as much as they did in that game. So there's an opportunity for the Eagles on the ground because I think that the Chiefs are going to open that door a little bit. But again, I mean, that's where their defense starts. And, Chris Jones said yesterday that, how they're doing it, how their approach to playing the run game is that you play the run all the way to the quarterback. And that is kind of their philosophy. I think it's hey, if they run into a running back and make a tackle while trying to get to the quarterback, that's just an added bonus.
All right. Last thing for you. What's the lead in this one? How do you see this one playing out on Sunday?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if the Chiefs show up this time, and like I said, it's been a while since we've seen the Chiefs show up. If they do, this should be a really good football game. I still think it's 50-50. I think the Chiefs need this game more. It means more to them than I think it will the Eagles. They want revenge. They want a payback. They also want to get the taste of what happened in Week 1 out of their mouth. I've never felt less optimistic taking the Chiefs to win it, but I just feel like that the intangibles are favoring them. That at home, this is the home opener. I mean, there's a lot going for them. So I'm going with the Chiefs 27-24, but I don't feel good about it at all. I think this is a game that I think could absolutely go either way. It feels like to me a little bit opposite of what I thought the Super Bowl would be. I thought that was one that, and I was completely wrong. I thought it was either going to be a Chiefs blowout or Eagles in a close win. This way, I think it could be the other way. This is either going to be a close Chiefs win or the Eagles are going to blow them out again.
All right, I'll take the close Eagles win because the blowout, hey, man, I'll be all excited for it. Trust me, Monday morning here, we'll be dancing around. But I appreciate you joining us. Thanks so much. Matt Derrick from Chiefs Digest. We appreciate you giving us some time today.
I appreciate it. It's good talking to you guys. Take care.
Thank you very much. Comcast Business Hotline there for Matt Derrick. All right. More talk on intangibles. More talk on narratives. We'll react to that. Plus, Sirianni scheduled for 11:50. We all know. But good to get the perspective from the Kansas City side of things. Energy and effort for a Super Bowl rematch? That's the biggest thing leading into the week? Doesn't sound pretty good. Does not sound good on their side of things. I'm Ray Dunn, taking through middays here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Now on 97.5 The Fanatic Sports Update.
Phillies sweep the Mets. I'm Sean Rodman, and the Phillies come from behind last night after giving up 4 runs in the first to complete the 4-game sweep over the Mets, which puts the magic number at 5 for the NL East division title. Phillies host the Royals in a 3-game series this weekend. Walker Buehler gets his first start tonight as making his Phillies debut. Buehler had a 5.45 ERA this season with the Boston Red Sox prior to his release, and former Philly Michael Lorenzen gets a start for the Royals. First pitch is at 6:45. The Birds head to Kansas City this weekend for the Super Bowl rematch. Landon Dickerson and Jalix Hunt both practiced in full yesterday after being limited on Wednesday. Dallas Goedert, Tanner McKee, and Will Shipley all did not practice yesterday for a second straight day. We'll keep you updated on the injury report once we get it later. Nick Sirianni is scheduled to speak to the media at 11:50, so we'll carry that live for you next. And in case you missed Matt Derrick of Chiefs Digest just a moment ago, that will be podcasted on 975thefanatic.com. This update is brought to you by Aleve. Traffic and body pain can slow you down, but don't let the pain stop you. With just one pill, Aleve provides up to 12 hours of pain relief, so you can keep moving. Use as directed. I'm Sean Rodman on the home of the best Birds coverage, 97.5 The Fanatic and 975thefanatic.com.
Hey, everybody.
Welcome in to the Midday Show here on 97.5 The Fanatic. Thanks again to Matt Derrick of Chiefs Digest for joining us in the last segment. I can't believe, and I can believe one thing. It is 11:50. At 11:50, yeah. And we still waiting. Hey, Coach, don't worry. No worries. We're just waiting. You won a Super Bowl, you win. You know, I can't fight that. I can't fight it. You know, you won the Super Bowl. You show up when you want. 11:50 press conference. I didn't move around anything for you. Don't worry. No worries. So I can't believe that we're waiting for Sirianni. But I can't believe, personally, that the conversation in Kansas City this week is just about energy and effort. That's the conversation. Matt Derrick of Chiefs Digest joined us last segment. I'd like to give those kind of wide scope answers or questions to try and get the answer of like, all right, what are you guys really talking about Kansas City this week? And the focus is on energy and effort? Really? Energy and effort's what lost you that Super Bowl last year? Maybe not blocking for Mahomes. That happening in the Super Bowl and then that happening week one, that's a trend. That's something. And that happened last year. Leaving Mahomes out on an island, that's a problem. I don't know if that's energy and effort. I think that's just a massive flaw with the football team. We're talking about Andy Reid, which we talked earlier this week about the credit Andy Reid gets for the way this thing's been built in Philadelphia. Right? The fact that building through the trenches was something that he emphasized, something that this team emphasized a ton while he was here and has taken since then. We're talking about a team for Andy Reid that doesn't block and doesn't get pressure. I mean, that goes against the tenets of what he's about. That would be the conversation I'm having this week. Is this team going to be able to protect Mahomes long enough? Is it going to be able to give Mahomes enough time to get into rhythm, to find a true passing game? That's the big thing. Out of that conversation, we had a lot of, again, going back and forth, Matt, a lot of what if. Well, if they pass protect, if they're able to get pressure, if, like, the way he makes it seem a lot more dire on the Chiefs side of things. And I don't think it's a dire setup for them. Man, oh man. Energy and effort being what you have to focus on for a team that won the AFC last year. Last year, I understand the Eagles go in there looking for the second Lombardi in franchise history, and the Chiefs had back-to-back Lombardi trophies, and they had already beaten the Eagles in the Super Bowl before. Just to boil last year's Super Bowl down to desire, I think understates what the Eagles were able to do to them. I came away from that conversation like, if that's really what we're talking about when it comes to the Chiefs, they're in a world of trouble. They're in a world of trouble organization-wise. And maybe we are talking about the demise. If energy and effort is what stands out to me. In that conversation with Matt Derrick that we just had from Chiefs Digest, I mean, the biggest thing is just the war in the trenches between these two teams. Right now, advantage, even though you are concerned about what the edge rushers could do for the Eagles because you don't necessarily know that. And we're talking about an offensive line that, again, hasn't necessarily had the success in week one that you would expect for this caliber of offensive line. We're absolutely talking edge to the Eagles in this one. The battle in the trenches. I mean, the time to throw for Hurts was still solid in week one. As much as they weren't able to run the football, there was still good things to be found with that offensive line. Defensive line, you're going to get Jalen Carter back, which is a whole world of difference for you. And the way Matt lined it up, you just line him up over his top of that left guard and just let things happen. And you go see what he could do. And you see whether or not he can really wreak havoc right up the middle there. I mean, with the conversation that we just had, maybe I'm adding a couple points to that total for the Birds in this one. I feel better about what they're going to do against the Chiefs because Matt gave us the pick where he's like, I see this Chiefs team winning, but I've never felt, what was it? He's never felt less optimistic in picking a Chiefs win. Yikes. I mean, that was the word we got from him. I've never felt less optimistic about an Eagles win, or excuse me, about a Chiefs win and picking it. That's Matt Derrick's words from the Chiefs Digest with us just about 10 minutes ago. If that's the way you truly feel, you should feel pretty great because he kept giving us the intangibles. He kept giving us the narratives. This is a home opener. They don't lose home openers. This is Mahomes and Reed. They don't go 0-2. This team's going to find that energy, find that effort. I would say there's a little bit more wrong there if we're talking energy and effort. And I know that we're going to get this audio for you coming up at some point. Rob Gronkowski was on with Up and Adams earlier this week and talked about the ability for this team to fold and how the Eagles maybe put out a blueprint on the Chiefs. I'm not ready to call for the Chiefs' demise. I know our guy Brandon in the back here. He does our YouTube. He's ready to call for them to be, last place because he's a Broncos fan. They're not winning that division. I'm not ready to call for their demise. But hearing energy and effort be the two things that are the biggest talking point in Kansas City for a team that was in the Super Bowl last year, that opened up against a division opponent, that's not too great. I mean, that makes me feel a lot better about the Eagles. So, it's 6 minutes past 11:50. Timing is always approximate when it comes to the head coach. Nick Sirianni's meeting with the media right now. Let's take a listen to the Super Bowl winning head coach.
A lot all season about wanting to be a disciplined football team. Coming off the penalties in week 1, what have you emphasized this week to fix that against the Chiefs?
Yeah, if I start emphasizing something in the middle of the season that I haven't been doing my job prior to. We obviously always talk about the things that you can control on tape. We have a team meeting every single day to talk about the practice. We have a team meeting every time coming off of a game. So we address those things in team meetings. Everyone's accountable, coaches, players, everybody. So, you just emphasize it and you continue to emphasize it.
What do you make of your depth at tight end if Dallas is unable to go?
Yeah, I think we have, obviously we have some guy. Grant's done a really good job of stepping in and playing when Dallas hasn't been able to play these last couple years. Really excited about Kylan and the things he can do. And I like our guys, both of our guys that are on practice squad have had meaningful reps in games, whether, Cam was in San Francisco or EJ played a lot for us last year and did really good job on special teams for us, both developing players. So really excited about those guys. And I think sometimes that's rare that you have, those guys on the practice squad that have played and have contributed and that you can trust right at the beginning of the season. And so I believe that's where that room is and excited about that room.
Those guys are known more for ball catch and receiving. In college, they didn't block much. How do you feel in that regard, if in general, and if Dallas can't go?
Yeah, we're obviously when we put a guy on the field or we put a guy in a game situation, we feel good. Everybody has different strengths and weaknesses. But we feel good about the rounded player of that room, of those guys. EJ's interesting in the sense that, he played wide receiver in college, but now he has worked so hard to be a good point of attack. That's what he's been working on for the past 2 years that he's been here. And so you feel really good about that. Same with Cam. Cam is big, strong, physical football player. That has the tools in his body to do that, those types of things. So that's what you work on. That's what you practice. That's why you go through off season. That's why you go through training camp to develop guys, continue to develop their strengths, and then obviously anything that you deem that they need work on.
Nick, what have you seen from Jalen Carter this week in practice, coming off of obviously the NCAA?
Yeah, just hard work and going through the meetings and walkthroughs and practice, with the intent of just going and playing his best game. And so, you're going to, we always talk about, practice is a good indicator of what the game will be like, and he's had a good week. We've talked a lot about embracing adversity this week and being able to be focused at the task at hand. That's what I've seen. I'm excited that, he'll be out there playing with us.
You coach there.
The two new guys, how have they looked through 2 days of
practice, I mean, Zadarius and Tank, obviously, and do you think Tank would be ready to assume like some running back load if Will Shipley can't play?
Yeah, we'll see, but their coaches and them have, Zadarius and Tank have done a really good job of putting in the extra work to make sure they know what's going on, because, the easiest way to give up a big play on defense and vice versa on offense is to not be on the same page. So those guys have worked hard. Their position coaches, Jamal and Coach Singleton and Wash, have done a really good job of catching them up. We'll see where they are. We got another day of practice and another day of meetings before we get into anything. And so, but I'm really pleased with how hard, they've worked to get themselves catched up. That's always a challenge at this time. And again, like I said to you guys, there's never like a handbook to say, this is when a guy's ready. You go through practice, you see if he is, and then you make a decision from there.
You've been on both sides of the fence. You've coached there. You've gone in there a lot as the opposition. What makes Arrowhead so difficult? Everybody talks about such a difficult environment.
First of all, I mean, it's a really good football team with really good players, obviously very well coached. And then, it's a loud atmosphere. I know they take a lot of pride in it being loud, and it is loud. And so you have to, handling adversity is not just bad, maybe bad things that happen. It's putting yourself in, situations. We try to do this at practice, loud situations at practice, and make it making yourself uncomfortable so you can be as comfortable as you can when you get into these moments. So, communication will be key. I'm probably saying it's something that everybody says when they go in there and play, and what they say when they come in here and play. That communication will be key, and handling adversities will be key. And, that's the key to go in there and being able to be on the same page through the chaos.
Think you'll hear more from the fans, considering how you left the building last time 2 years ago?
Yeah, I can't concern myself with that, maybe.
As a follow-up to Jeff's previous question, what in the absence of Dallas, what factors into using a sixth O lineman compared to an extra tight end?
Yeah, good question. I'll answer portions of it that I don't think, go to I'm giving anything away. Obviously, all those things are thought through. You don't. Obviously, there's things you can do with a tight end on the field that you can't do with an offensive lineman on the field, and sometimes vice versa. And so you weigh the plays that are in and figure out what's in and what you can accomplish both on, and you kind of go through it that way. I don't think you see many times where. And the answer can be, yeah, there's some for this guy, and then there's some for this guy at one position, the other position. I don't think I've ever seen anyone go exclusively with the big tight, with the offensive lineman there. You could, but you kind of just weigh those things and weigh the things on some of the scheme you're doing, some of the blocking assignments you're doing, some of the pass routes that you're doing, and you make decisions on every one of those things and every one of those plays. Just very similar to what you would do. When you're designing you're thinking about one of your plays and you want to put your guys in positions where they can succeed the most.
Yesterday's segment was talking about how his favorite part of the game is the adjustment part of the game. I know it's only been one game, but what is that process like? With kind of adjusted staff and how that plays out in the whole game.
Yeah, same as it's been. Right, there's certain things that you have philosophies on, and so really, I'd say, yeah, maybe it's only been one game this year, but we've been, Kevin, a lot of the staff has been, the same throughout, and especially on offense, and so a lot of the similarities, and it is you always got to be ready to adjust, and especially when you're, good on offense, you're going to see some things that you didn't quite expect, and then also that's the case for Coach Spag's defense. You're going to see some things you might not have expected. So being able to adjust is critical to help put our players in positions to succeed.
All right, thanks.
All right, there it is. Head coach of your Philadelphia Eagles, Nick Sirianni. You're tuned in to WPEN HD1 Burlington, Philadelphia, Beasley Media Group Station, Broadcasting live from the Comcast Business Studio, powering possibilities. All right. Whew. Sean Rodman, how much did you get from that?
Oh, a whole lot of nothing.
Yeah, all right. So here's
Didn't
what
give
I
us
got.
much.
Yeah, here's what I got. Believe it or not, he likes the tight end room despite the fact that he has an injury there. Yeah, he was going to say that regardless. Credits Calcaterra for stepping in. Excited for Kylan Granson. Likes the practice squad guys. I don't know this for a fact, okay? I only work in this market. I will scan other coaches' pressers for content, for potential storylines. I don't sit and listen every single coach in the NFL like I listen to Nick Sirianni. I would argue, though, there is no coach in the history of the sport that has spent more percentage of their time at pressers talking about the practice squad. I don't know that to be true. I don't know that to be false. It's a feel fact. It just feels like I have spent more time of my life than I ever anticipated addressing the practice squad. It's good for the football guys like Andrew DeCecco. All right? Those guys locked in, the whole 69-man roster. You know, you are not just a 53-man roster anymore. These practice squad spots count. The Eagles value them a ton. Important. It is just impressive to me every time that we get a practice squad breakdown. I'll be interested to see if Goddard doesn't go, which yesterday Goddard did not practice again. I don't believe he was out there, which is never a really good sign for a guy playing in the game. We're going to talk to Tim McManus coming up at 12:55 from ESPN, covers the Eagles, and we will get his breakdown on what he thinks about Dallas Goedert, amongst other things, playing in this game. But the tight end room, Sirianni likes it. There is a concern blocking-wise, and it's not just Goddard. You're now without Johnny Wilson, Ben Van Sumeren, and Goddard, all players that kind of factored into what you thought you were going to do in the running game. From a blocking perspective, you have none of them potentially this week. Obviously, one of Wilson or Van Sumeren, but Goddard trending towards not playing, it appears. He feels good about the tight end room being well-rounded, but he then kind of mentioned that it was the room that was well-rounded. Got into E.J. Jenkins' improvement blocking, but again, blocking from that tight end spot seems to be something that they will be lacking with some of the depth pieces they have there. I'll be interested to see how it works out for them. We've seen Calcaterra step in before. There is a considerable drop-off from Goddard to Calcaterra. It's a shame for Goddard, who made all that fuss about him coming back, if he's going to miss week 2 after a solid week 1 for him. Mentioned we'll see in regards to Bigsby and Zadarius Smith getting themselves on the field. That's going to come down to their coaches. I would imagine if Shipley can't go, Bigsby's going to be a part of what happens there. Again, there's a lot of redundancy in what he does for an offense and what A.J. Dillon does for an offense. He will obviously be, well, not obviously. He will factor into the kick return game, you think, at some point. Maybe not obviously this week. For Zadarius Smith, like, I get it. There's a lot you have to learn to be an edge rusher in a Vic Fangio system. Do I necessarily feel like his talent overtakes what the rest of these guys are? I feel like he should be a part of a rotation as soon as he get here. But as he noted this week, hasn't put the pads on since January 14th. So maybe some time for him to get, and this is what I loved. This is what I caught. This was the little thing that my ear caught. Catched up. You hear him say that?
I did.
Yes. Catched up.
Catched up.
Catched up. Caught. Caught up. That's the phrase. I can't believe you would single out that part of our Super Bowl winning coach's presser. Yeah, I know. It's just my dumb brain, all right? My dumb brain heard catched up twice. I was like, they're not playing at Heinz Field this week. Like, it's caught up, buddy. Caught up. That's what we're looking for in terms of your grammar. You make mistakes, too. I do. I'm not above it. I laugh at myself as well. Just saying. And then Arrowhead. Got to practice the noise. Got to make sure that you're ready to deal with a loud environment. All right. Not a ton to take from there. If you heard anything from Sirianni, be my guest on Breaking Down. One thing that he meant that he did say that was a real quick answer, back to, I believe it was McLean. I'll bring it up coming up next. Plus, the Chiefs' energy and effort. We'll continue to react to what Matt Derrick had to say and get into this game this weekend. How are you feeling about Chiefs-Eagles? You can jump in 610-632-0975. I'm Ray Dunn. Take you through the midday show here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Attention.
Howie Roseman did something that I think a lot of people sometimes miss. He went ahead of the curve. Defenses have gotten smaller and faster, so he said, okay, let's get a ground game going. Talk about how difficult that might be, trying to either do something different, or a lot of teams go, wait, we have to throw to win, so we're going to build offenses that way. When it comes to building a roster, would you rather try to go with what everybody else is doing, or try to be the person that says, let me try to combat with that with something else?
Well, I'm going to answer that in three ways. First and foremost, you're absolutely right about Howie. He does a tremendous job. But I'm also going to credit Jeff Lurie, because when you are the owner, you have ultimate responsibility and ultimate authority, and you can certainly delegate that responsibility and delegate that authority, and he has done so. He picked someone magnificent to whom to give that authority and responsibility, but at the end of the day, the owner is the owner, so credit to Jeff Lurie as well. Number two, you are talking to the girl who has always and forever been an advocate and a proponent of the run game. Last year when I heard people saying, oh, a rejuvenation of the run game, my brain almost exploded because I have never given up on the running game. Look, football is 11 on 11. That's math, and that's math that even I can do, and I suck at doing math. But if you've got a solid, good, and in the case of the Eagles, tremendous running game, well, guess what? It's going to take defenders on the other team to slow that down, and by definition, that's going to make your quarterback's job easier, your receiver's jobs easier, because if you've got to put attention on a running game, which Eagle opponents did, you're freeing up other people. So I love what he did. That you were able to, and I'm saying you because you're Philadelphians, go out and get the back of the quality you did from a divisional opponent is, well, I'll use my mom's word, wowie.
We have it too much ingrained in us where it's you finally got a franchise that gives you a bully on the block, that gives you one of the greatest teams in all of pro sports. And we got people who want to, the Commanders look good and Jaden Daniels looks good and want to suck their thumbs. I don't get it. I do not get it. I waited my whole damn life to have a team like this, and I refuse to be scared of it. I refuse. Embrace it. I'm not scared of the Commanders. Not in the least. Not in the least.
Howie Roseman did something that I think a lot of people sometimes miss.
Midday show here on 97.5 The Fanatic, making our way through the 12 o'clock hour. It's brought to you by Service First HVAC, offering 0% financing for 48 months, rebates and tax credits up to $4,300 when purchasing a heating and cooling system. Learn more at ServiceFirstHVAC.com. I'm ready to take you through it, and We got busy-ish 12 o'clock hour coming up. We got 12:55. We got Tim McManus of ESPN. We got some more Phillies things that I also want to get into. But how about this audio from Rob Gronkowski? Now, it's funny. What was it, an hour ago? You and I are like, not too big on the guy as an analyst.
Yeah, exactly.
Not too big. But he goes to the Up and Adams show with Kay Adams, and he was talking about the Chiefs and maybe the blueprint that was put out there in the Super Bowl. And we just talked to Matt Derrick of Chiefs Digest in the 11 o'clock hour. And the big talking point in Kansas City this week is not the fact they can't protect Mahomes, is not the fact that Justin Herbert picked them apart, not the fact that, it's kind of disrespectful to all of us as football fans that they let him run for 19 yards to ice that game. Like, they let Herbert get out of containment. They let Justin Herbert run. Can you imagine what Hurts could do to them? Anyway. And it's none of that. It's nothing that happened on the field. It's the energy and the effort. And it's what's going on inside that locker room. That's the big talking point down there in Kansas City. Well, Rob Gronkowski on Up and Adams this week talked about just how this team seems like a cheap lawn chair. They going to fold? Take a listen.
What I was surprised about is when things aren't going their way, as you can see, when they start struggling a little bit, they start yelling at each other. Their blame game starts going on. You can see it on the sidelines. And that's not a good situation. I mean, you want to come together when you're down, when things aren't going your way. You want to come together to figure out why, everything's not going the way it needs to go. So to see them starting to point fingers is not a good sign. They got to, get incorporated on and get on the same page and not be blaming others.
Huh. And he might be referencing at the end of that game, Chris Jones and Drew Tranquil went back and forth at one another. There was a whole like they were upset because they let Herbert break out and run. But he points that out as a thing for them to go back and forth with one another, that there's an energy about them. There's a little bit of dissension within that group, that they could fold, that they could not handle adversity. You remember back in 2023 when the 49ers came here and just smoked the Eagles?
I do.
And everything just fell apart. Now, granted, that was mid-season. It's tough to put everything back together mid-season. The Chiefs last year had that energy of them, where they're just going to get by in one-score games, where they're just going to survive. Patrick Mahomes pulled magic out a million times, it seemed like, last year. They just kept surviving. And there was always the notion, and I think about our buddy Brendan Gunn, because Brendan Gunn got himself into a little bit of trouble last season. I don't know if you remember this. He had made a bet. I think it was with John Kincade, but I could be wrong on that, so someone can fact-check me here at The Fanatic. But he made a bet that the Chiefs wouldn't make the playoffs because they just couldn't keep surviving that way. He ended up being wrong. Now, the way he'll tell you is he wasn't wrong, he was just early. That they were frauds. They were just found out to be frauds in the Super Bowl. I would say if you make it to the Super Bowl, it's tough to be frauds. But there could be a sense of feeling inside that Kansas City locker room. Like, we didn't play up to what we thought we were. We kept somehow surviving and then got smoked in the Super Bowl. And is that more of what we are? Now, you had a whole offseason to fix that. That's a massive organizational problem if you were unable to fix that over that offseason. But the fact that there's that level of dissension, that level of questioning that Gronk lays out there, that was laid out there with the end of that Chiefs game, and something I pointed out earlier this week, the team that plays less emotional, the team that's more about taking care of their business this weekend, I think, is the team that's coming away with this win. Maybe you punch them in the mouth early again. And will they be able to respond? Is this a team that right now might be running on empty? It's not the end for the dynasty. It's not the end for the run for the Chiefs. Maybe a group that's gotten a little stale. Groups that not quite on the same page the way they once were. All good things run their course. And it's not that that era has run its course, but just maybe the iteration, the grouping itself. I don't know. Just interesting to hear that audio and think the big talking point this week, according to Matt Derrick of Chiefs Digest, is the energy and the effort. Now we're questioning whether they're going to fold. There was maybe a harsh truth that they learned in that Super Bowl. I don't know. Just something that sticks out to me while we're talking about this whole thing. There's this mystique about the Chiefs that we've talked about all week. We talked about it with Matt. That, yeah, these narratives are going to play themselves out. Chiefs can't start 0-2. Not with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. They don't lose home openers. Some of that mystique going away. Not that they'll be bad, but maybe this infallible force, we found a little bit of problems internally that are slowing them down right now. If you can't tell, I'm starting to feel a little bit more confident as we go through this show. I had them winning. Feeling a little bit better about them winning right now. Coming up, last night, you watched? Were you able to stay up to the end of the game, Sean Robin?
I was able to stay up to the end of the game. I didn't catch most of the game because I was at the Phillies, but
okay, that's a fair excuse. Grandpa.
But I was able to stay up for the whole game.
Good for you. You kids. I was able to catch the game. You able to get onto Amazon Prime, Grandpa?
You're funny.
He's ready to kill me. It's Friday. All right. I watched that game too. Say more about the Commanders or the Packers, what you saw last night. We'll get to that coming up as we look around the NFC before we dive right back into this Eagles-Chiefs matchup. I'm Ray Zunn, taking you through middays here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Now on 97.5 The Fanatic Sports Update.
Bills sweep the Mets. I'm Sean Rodman. The Phillies come from behind last night after giving up 4 runs in the first to complete the 4-game sweep, which puts the magic number at 5 for the NL East division title. Phillies host the Royals in a 3-game series this weekend. Walker Buehler gets the start tonight, making his Phillies debut. Buehler had a 5.45 ERA this season with the Boston Red Sox prior to his release, and former Philly Michael Lorenzen gets the start for the Royals. First pitch is at 6:45. Birds head to Kansas City this weekend for a Super Bowl rematch. Landon Dickerson and Jalen Hunt both practiced in full yesterday after being limited on Wednesday. Dallas Goedert, Tanner McKee, and Will Shipley all did not practice yesterday for a second straight day. We'll keep you updated on the injury report once we get it later. And in case you missed Nick Sirianni speaking, we'll have that podcasted on 97.5thefanatic.com. And ESPN's Tim McManus will join us at 12:55. This update is brought to you by Bet365. Football is back. Get ready for the season at Bet365. When it comes to sports books, Bet365 has it all. Download the app today and see why it's never ordinary at Bet365. I'm Sean Rodman on the home of the best Birds coverage, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
Howie Roseman did something that I think a lot of people sometimes miss. He went ahead of the curve. Defenses have gotten smaller and faster, so he said, okay, let's get a ground game going. Talk about how difficult that might be, trying to either do something different, or a lot of teams go, wait, we have to throw to win, so we're going to build offenses that way. When it comes to building a roster, would you rather try to go with what everybody else is doing, or try to be the person that says, let me try to combat with that with something else?
Well, I'm going to answer that in 3 ways. First and foremost, you're absolutely right about Howie. He does a tremendous job. But I'm also going to credit Jeff Lurie, because when you are the owner, you have ultimate responsibility and ultimate authority, and you can certainly delegate that responsibility and delegate that authority, and he has done so. He picked someone magnificent to whom to give that authority and responsibility, but at the end of the day, the owner is the owner, so credit to Jeff Lurie as well. Number 2, you are talking to the girl who has always and forever been an advocate and a proponent of the run game. Last year when I heard people saying, oh, you know, a rejuvenation of the run game, my brain almost exploded because I have never given up on the running game. Look, football is 11 on 11. That's math, and that's math that even I can do, and I suck at doing math. But if you've got a solid, good, and in the case of the Eagles, tremendous running game, well, guess what? It's going to take defenders on the other team to slow that down, and by definition, that's going to make your quarterback's job easier, your receiver's jobs easier, because if you've got to put attention on a running game, which Eagle opponents did, you're freeing up other people. So I love what he did. I mean, that you were able to, and I'm saying you because you're Philadelphians, go out and get the back of the quality you did from a divisional opponent is, well, I'll use my mom's word, wowie.
We have it too much ingrained in us where it's you finally got a franchise that gives you a bully on the block, that gives you one of the greatest teams in all of pro sports. And we got people who want to, yeah, well, you know, the Commanders look good and Jaden Daniels looks good and want to suck their thumbs. I don't get it. I do not get it. I waited my whole damn life to have a team like this, and I refuse to be scared of it. I refuse. Embrace it. I'm not scared of the Commanders. Not in the least. Not in the least.
Midday show here on The Fanatic. Open up the show talking about I'm in a pretty good camp when it comes to Sunday. I'm ready done hanging out with you. I think this Chiefs team, they are better than, and the more and more that we talk about them, the mystique starts to wear. I understand what Mahomes can do to you, but the more and more I go into this week, like you start the week, it's all right, let me look back at what I didn't like from Thursday night against the Cowboys. All right, originally W's and L's. I had this one down as an L, and I was all right, why? And we talked it out through this week about some of the narrative-based stuff, some of the intangible-based stuff. We talked with Matt Derrick at Chiefs Digest last hour, and that was kind of his reason for taking the Chiefs. Like, I just can't see him start 0-2. And I think Schefter kind of had a similar sentiment this week. And I think nationally, I think when you watch the pregame shows on Sunday, that's the sentiment they're going to have of like, well, can you just imagine a world where Mahomes and Andy Reid aren't winning? It's like, you haven't seen it yet, but it doesn't mean it can't happen. And just the overall conversation about the way they feel and the way that things seem to be going there, it has me feeling more and more confident. I opened the show with the three things I'm looking for. It's where the pressure's coming from. The Eagles only pressured Dak Prescott in 34.3% of plays in that game. That's something to keep your eye on. They were not able to get pressure week one. Carter, how does he change that equation? And also, young left tackle for that Chiefs team. Are you able to expose him with someone in this edge rusher room? This kind of feels like a spot where it's got to be, if Nolan Smith's going to be one of the leaders of this group and going to be one of the driving forces of what this defense does, kind of feels like a Nolan Smith spot for you. That Super Bowl, Milton Williams, Josh Sweat were the two headliners in terms of sacks when you have 6 sacks while Patrick Mahomes. It's one of those, hey, kind of show me type moments for Nolan Smith. There's been so much talk about you taking over that top spot. There's been talk about you becoming a leader with this team. I kind of need you to be the one that steps up in this moment and has the big game for you. And for one of the veterans that they've got behind Smith and Hunt, it wouldn't be a bad time to solidify your spot. They brought in Zadarius Smith. Uche, how are you going to respond? If Ojulari gets the chance, how are you going to respond? If Johnson's out there, hey, man, how many times have you been off this team, back to this team, off this team, back to this team? It'd be good to see someone find that response beyond the top two guys for them, pressure-wise. And for Ajomo, if you're going to fill in that role that Milton Williams had, good time to show how you're filling in that role this weekend. Control in the middle of the field going to be a big deal for me also against this Chiefs team. One, how you're able to spy Mahomes. Is that Campbell that's tracking him down? Feels like Campbell would be the likely one for that one, but also control in the middle of the field and how they use Travis Kelce, because they're going to be without seems like both their top receivers, and Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy. So how are you able to control that middle of the field? They didn't get a run game going in week 1. They haven't had a strong offensive line for, again, first week of the season. Going back to that Super Bowl, they're going to be able to run the football. I'm looking at this team. Can you control that line of scrimmage? Can you control that middle part of the field? Because if they're trying to beat you outside, I understand they have Patrick Mahomes, but they don't necessarily have the receiver talent where I'm sitting there like, yeah, it's a guarantee. Maybe you sprinkle a little money on some over props for Juju Smith-Schuster and whoever they got, Adoree Jackson trailing. But I don't think they're beating you to that level. If they're able to control the middle of the field, then I'm really concerned. And finally, from the Eagles side of things, you got to take advantage of going over the top against this Chiefs defense. And you got to be a little less risk-averse than you were in week 1, because that was the way the Chargers were able to break them out of that zone in week 1 against the Chiefs. Chiefs did a lot of zone the same way the Cowboys did a lot of zone. Hurt was able to break them out of that zone. I need the Eagles to be taking a little bit more chances. I'm not telling you to be a gambler. Now, you're not all of a sudden putting it all on 18 and roulette. I'm not asking you to just bet the house here in terms of the risks you're taking. But I'm telling you, hey, instead of betting on, like, red or black at the roulette table, like, maybe throw a couple numbers out there. Maybe a range of numbers out there. Not telling you to throw everything on one number. Just saying, risk-wise, take a little bit more of it. All right? It's not an all-in move with every pass you throw, but just a little bit more in terms of the risk that you're throwing out there. Those are the 3 things I'm looking for in this game. Of course, today we've already reacted to Phillies taking not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 from the Mets, sweeping them out of Philly and kind of getting rid of last year's postseason boogeyman. Let's take a look at the text line. What do we got going on there at 610-632-0975?
All right. David in Daytona checking in says, since the Mets swept the Phillies have gone down 3+ in the first inning and won 3 times. I double-checked David on that one, and you could even chalk it up to 4 runs in the first 2 innings, 3 of those 3 separate times. Because the one time against the Brewers, they scored the extra run in the second. So they did once against the Brewers, once against Miami, and then once against the Mets this past series.
Wow.
All came back.
Yeah. I mean, they've shown a lot, like, their effort and their, I guess, ability to respond to adversity has been there. It was there. You go back to that Monday against Milwaukee where they just kept battling and they win that game, what was probably the game of the year. I know Rob Thompson talked last night about last night being the game of the year. Their ability to respond to adversity has been there in specific games where you're like, oh, this team's not dead. Also comes from the fact that their lineup, it doesn't feel like there's an automatic. Even with the lineup they're rolling out there right now without half of their infield, and you look at it some nights and you're like, whoa. That they've still been able to get production from the bottom of their lineup. They have a lineup that's been lengthened by the corner outfield platoons and the fact that Bader's been just as unbelievable as he's been for this team. That's allowed you to have more from your lineup, which allows you to come back because you feel like the other team is threatened every single inning. And there were times against the Mets at Citi Field where you felt like you were drowning, watching the Mets just hit after hit after hit. The Phillies have turned that to the teams they've played since. And they've dealt with adversity both in-game and then just in stretches of their season, losing Wheeler, getting swept up at Citi Field, losing Turner and Bohm, and they've answered the bell consistently. And they've answered the bell since that Citi Field sweep pretty well. So it's not uncommon. They answered the bell when they got swept up there the first time, where they went on a nice run. It's impressive to see them deal with adversity. It really is.
All right, next up on the text line, we have no name on this one, but how about we chalk it up to week 1 for the offensive line? Why are we looking so deep into this? Let it play out before we determine it a worry.
Did I determine it a worry?
I don't know. I wouldn't say you determined it a worry, but I know you had some concerns, at least for the blocking week 1.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. I think watching back week 1 and saying that the blocking wasn't up to par is different than saying, I don't think this offensive line is going to figure it out. I'll be honest with you guys. If we did 4 hours every day where we just didn't acknowledge anything that happened week 1 and just moved on like it's early in the season, be very, very different. We would basically come in here and, I mean, maybe some of you guys just want this from us where it's like, you know what? Instead of doing any sort of analysis, let's just
hell yeah.
We could play this on 4 hours of loop instead of going through any concerns. How many hours in would people get tired of it?
I don't think people would make an hour.
I feel bad. I feel bad you don't really cut this song off. So we're going to let it keep rolling.
Yeah, I fade it down, but it's hard for me to cut it off.
Right. It feels like sacrilegious to just be like, yeah. Somebody in their car right now? But if you want us to do 4 hours of that instead of looking at what happened week 1, we're going to be in a tough spot here. Like, you have to be able to look and have a critical eye to things. Like the A.J. Brown thing yesterday. I'm not telling you I'm worried that there's going to be a huge fracture in the locker room and that everything's going to blow up with that offense. But the way he answered the questions yesterday, that raised an eyebrow for me. The way the offensive line played week 1, that raised an eyebrow for me. That's just what I'm saying. Now, what do we got on the Packers?
All right. It's more so not necessarily something breaking down the Packers from last night, but more so their social media team. Jonathan Pendel tweeted a screenshot of what the Packers tweeted out after their win.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, can we talk about that? Another win for the exciting Whites stay
remain undefeated.
Yeah, stop it. Copyright, please. Stop it. The exciting Whites. You wore white last night. Shut up. Packers, that was so obnoxious. Yeah, they're tweeting out the exciting Whites stay unbeaten. Give me a break. Stop it. You know it. That's Reed Blankenship, and you know that's Cooper DeJean. Though, to that point, Packers last night. I'm taking more in the Packers' performance than I am in the Commanders. Packers are damn good. Packers are competition in the NFC right now.
Really? I took that the opposite way.
Oh, you don't think the Commanders are good? That defense was flying for the Packers.
I think the Packers are showing who I believe they are. I think the Commanders are showing the world right now that I don't think they're that as good as they were last year.
Well, they might. Well, I think we all expect them to take a step back, but
yeah,
I'm not necessarily saying they're cooked.
I'm not saying they're cooked by any means, but they didn't win Did they win a single game against a playoff team last year? I believe
the quarterbacks they beat last year is a funny list. It's a very funny list.
The only one was one, which is the Eagles when Jalen Hurts left the game.
All right, that's right. My takeaway from that is man, the Packers are good.
Like, I mean, you take that out of that game as well.
I took it out of the Lions game. I took it both the Lions and Commanders probably take a step back this year. The Packers made it seem like they were not even postseason teams from a year ago. That's really what the last 2 games for them did.
You know, they've gone 2-0 now to start the season. A couple times now, 2 other times under Matt LaFleur. Both times they made it to the NFC Championship game, the Packers. Granted, Aaron Rodgers was their quarterback at the time, but
I got a pretty good quarterback right now.
They do. We know you're a big Jordan Love, go Pack, go guy over there.
Just saying. Room for the Packers yesterday. If you room for the Commanders, you're weird. The Eagles,
yes,
first place.
First place.
First place. All alone. Buddy Tiffy. They said he did the cheer at the end of the fight song in his car as we went along there. I'm happy for you. I hope everyone did. Coming up, continuing on this Eagles conversation. How important is this game really for the Chiefs? Because we talk about the intangibles, the narratives. How game-breaking is it for them? How season-changing is it for them? Every game's important, right? Yes, you're right. Good call. Good call by you. But seriously, they can't start 0-2, can they? Might just be able to. I'm Ray Dunn, taking you through middays here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Now, a Birds Insider Update on 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
Just 2 days away from the Super Bowl rematch. I'm Sean Rodman, and the Birds head to Kansas City this weekend for Week 2. The Eagles are dealing with a few injuries. Dallas Goedert, Tanner McKee, and Will Shipley all did not practice for a second straight day yesterday. Landon Dickerson and Jalex Hunt were both full participants at practice yesterday after being limited at practice on Wednesday. This weekend could be the first time we see the Eagles, some new Eagles, Zadarius Smith being one who signed last Friday, and Tank Bigsby, who was traded from Jacksonville to Philadelphia earlier this week. The Chiefs will be without one of its top wide receivers this weekend, Rashee Rice. He remains out with a suspension. Xavier Worthy was limited at practice yesterday after he did not practice on Wednesday. Worthy left the Chiefs' Week 1 game early with a dislocated shoulder. Earlier in the week, it was reported that Worthy would attempt to play with a brace rather than surgery once he's declared fully fit to play. We'll keep you updated on both the Eagles and Chiefs injury reports reports once they are released. Kickoff is scheduled for 4:25 on Sunday. ESPN's Tim McManus joins us at 12:55 to discuss this weekend's matchup. I'm Sean Rodman on the home of the best Birds coverage, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
Howie Roseman did something that I think a lot of people sometimes miss. He went ahead of the curve. Defenses have gotten smaller and faster, so he said, okay, let's get a ground game going. Talk about how difficult that might be, trying to either do something different, or a lot of teams go, wait, we have to throw to win, so we're going to build offenses that way. When it comes to building a roster, would you rather try to go with what everybody else is doing, or try to be the person that says, let me try to combat with that with something else?
Well, I'm going to answer that in three ways. First and foremost, you're absolutely right about Howie. He does a tremendous job. But I'm also going to credit Jeff Lurie, because when you are the owner, you have ultimate responsibility and ultimate authority, and you can certainly delegate that responsibility and delegate that authority, and he has done so. He picked someone magnificent to whom to give that authority and responsibility, but at the end of the day, the owner is the owner, so credit to Jeff Lurie as well. Number two, you are talking to the girl who has always and forever been an advocate and a proponent of the run game. Last year when I heard people saying, oh, a rejuvenation of the run game, my brain almost exploded because I have never given up on the running game. Look, football is 11 on 11. That's math, and that's math that even I can do, and I suck at doing math. But if you've got a solid, good, and in the case of the Eagles, tremendous running game, well, guess what? It's going to take defenders on the other team to slow that down, and by definition, that's going to make your quarterback's job easier, your receiver's jobs easier, because if you've got to put attention on a running game, which Eagle opponents did, you're freeing up other people. So I love what he did. That you were able to, and I'm saying you because you're Philadelphians, go out and get the back of the quality you did from a divisional opponent is, well, I'll use my mom's word, wowie.
We have it too much ingrained in us where it's you finally got a franchise that gives you a bully on the block, that gives you one of the greatest teams in all of pro sports. And we got people who want to, the Commanders look good and Jaden Daniels looks good and want to suck their thumbs. I don't get it. I do not get it. I waited my whole damn life to have a team like this, and I refuse to be scared of it. I refuse. Embrace it. I'm not scared of the Commanders. Not in the least. Not in the least.
Howie Roseman did something that I think a lot of people sometimes miss. He went ahead of the curve. Defenses have gotten smaller and faster, so he said, okay, let's get a ground game going. Talk about how difficult that might be, trying to either do something different, or a lot of teams go, wait, we have to throw to win, so we're going to build offenses that way.
Practice underway down at NovaCare. Sean, guess who's not there?
Dallas Goedert would be my guess.
Dallas Goedert. Just saw Zach Berman's tweet about it. No Goddard at practice. Seems like they're going to be without Dallas Goedert this weekend. Noteworthy loss for this team in the fact that, one, and our own Andrew DeCecco just tweeted this one out, no sign of tight end Dallas Goedert at Eagles practice. So we'll talk to Tim McManus coming up at 12:55 from ESPN to break down everything going on, but no Goddard. Obviously an issue for you. And it does that in the case of run blocking, but also coming off of last week. If you expect as much zone as the Chiefs threw at the Chargers in the first half and as much zone as the Cowboys threw at the Eagles throughout the entire game, Goddard was the safety valve for you there. Calcaterra is a nice player. He's not Dallas Goedert. It just goes to the point of they have to be a little less risk averse this week. They have to get it to the big targets here. A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. And I know we always fall back on this whole Detroit Lions 2022 opener where Devontae Smith didn't get the ball. Then the next game he has a massive game. Or you could go back to last year, the Panthers game. A.J. says what he says. And then him and Hurts are dancing against the Steelers because they threw the ball to him. It just has to look different for them this week. But looking like you're going to be without Dallas Goedert in this one. Now, the big talking point, narrative point for the Chiefs this week for a lot of people, can you imagine this team going 0-2? And also, like, can this game put the quote-unquote dagger into the Chiefs' repeat hopes? And you say, wow, that's really early to say. Well, you know, falling 0-2, early to have 2 losses. You need to get yourself back up to that top, you know, the ability to get to a top seed, the ability, like, do we believe they can get things done if things don't go through Arrowhead in the postseason? I would tend to believe they could do it regardless of where they play, but a lot easier when they're at Arrowhead. How badly do the Chiefs need this game? How badly are they in a spot where they need? Obviously, you don't want to start 0-2, but then you go on the road to New York. Anyone think they're not beating the Giants? No, of course they're beating the Giants. Chiefs will get a victory there. They then host Baltimore, which will be a tough one, so I give you credit there. They then go on the road to Jacksonville. Anyone think they're not beating Jacksonville? They're able to pick up 2 wins there. They've got a Lions team that after week 1 has people asking questions about it, the same way people ask questions about the Chiefs. They have a Raiders team that, hey, might be better than people anticipate. That over 6.5 might or might not have hit the FanDuel Sportsbook app for me. Might have. I might have gotten a little chesty and maybe over 7.5. Who knows? Who knows? I like plus money. What can I say? There's a chance that even if they start 0-2 here, they could stabilize themselves to be 4-3 by the time they get Washington. And they could stabilize themselves to be 5-3 by the time they get to Buffalo. I just look at the way things break out for them, the back end of that schedule. They're going to have the Colts. They're going to have the Cowboys. They're going to have Tennessee. They'll end the season against Vegas. Like, maybe they do start somewhere along the line of like 4-4, 5-3. But to start 0-2, I don't think you're necessarily sticking the dagger in a team that's going to end up getting back Rashee Rice. Will probably end up getting back Worthy. Has things to figure out that they will, I think, eventually you could think based on their coaching, what they have there, they can cobble things together after an 0-2 start. Everyone's like, they need this game. They have to win this game. It's more desperate for the Chiefs than it is for the Eagles. But I don't think it's an impossible world where they start 0-2 and don't find their way back into the postseason. And I think that's like the desperation factor that people are throwing out there for the Chiefs feels a little forced. That's all I'm saying. Now, I understand we got one text here on the Chiefs before we get ready to get ourselves to our conversation with Tim McManus coming up at 12:55.
Yeah, Mike in Turnersville checking in saying, I think the Chiefs will get off to a rough start and will need a strong second half of the season to make a run at the playoffs. Every year, there are surprise teams that don't make the playoffs, and many times the loser of the Super Bowl struggle the following year.
Oh, so we got Super Bowl hangover on the Chiefs. I mean, it's realistic to think they could start this season and be sitting at like 4-4, lose to the Bills, be 4-5 going into their bye, and everyone freaking out about them. And Mahomes can have his relax moment that Aaron Rodgers had. And they could have a torrid second half to get themselves into the postseason, maybe at 11-6, maybe at 10-7. And then it'll be, well, you really going to bet against Mahomes and Reed in the postseason? I don't think it's as dire as people think for them, because they have the makings. A team that's losing, it's not without its, or not playing with its top two receivers. A team that has question marks defensively, has question marks on the offensive line. They have a lot to figure out early on here. Could they have a similar, like again, a 2-3 start and figure it out? Who's arguing against that? But coming up, we're going to talk to the man that covers the Eagles for ESPN, Tim McManus, about the matchup, what he sees, who he didn't see at practice, and what he expects on Sunday. I'm Ray Dunn, taking you through the midday show here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Now on 97.5 The Fanatic Sports Update.
No Goddard at practice. I'm Sean Rodman, and this update is sponsored by BetParks Online Casino and Sportsbook. Live bet sports on the BetParks app and play all your favorite casino games. There's always another way to win on the BetParks Online Casino and Sportsbook app. No Dallas Goedert at practice again today, which does not look good for his availability on Sunday. No word yet on Landon Dickerson and Jalex Hunt. They did both fully participate yesterday at practice and were limited on Wednesday. Tanner McKee and Will Shipley, we would expect, are also not going to play. No official word on McKee, but Will Shipley also not spotted on practice. We'll keep you updated once the official injury report comes out later today. Nick Sirianni spoke to the media earlier today. In case you missed that, that'll be podcasted on 975thefanatic.com. And the Phil's magic number is down to 5 for the NL East Division title. Phillies host the Royals in a 3-game series this weekend. Walker Buehler gets the start tonight for the Phils, and Walker Buehler had a 5.45 ERA this season with the Boston Red Sox prior to his release, and former Philly Michael Lorenzen gets the start for the Royals tonight. First pitch is at 6:45. With the Birds heading to Kansas City this weekend, ESPN's Tim McManus joins us next to break that all down. This update is also brought to you by Electrical Workers Local 269 and the Electrical Training Alliance. The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 269, NECA, and the Electrical Training Alliance can offer a career with no college debt. I'm Sean Rodman on the home of the best Birds coverage, 97.5 The Fanatic.
This is your wheelhouse, too. Offensive line. How you think Tyler Steen looked as the starting right guard?
I mean, it's like he started all last year. He had a phenomenal game. He showed presence out there. He wasn't just in there filling in. He showed that I wanted a position. He was, very, very explosive out there. He put his hands on people. He was moving people. He looked like a day one starter, like he should have been there last year. I was totally impressed on Tyler Steen and how he approached this game. I mean, kudos to, Coach Stoutland making sure he's ready to play. And I tell you what, I had rave reviews for him all through the post game, the other night, and just the way he played. So big ups to him going out there and really showing and imposing his will on that offense as an offensive lineman.
teams kind of looking at the Phillies when it comes to playoff baseball?
Know how people here look at the Phillies, but I also get to hear how people on the outside look at them. And here's the phrase that GM-type figures in two front offices use to describe them to me just in the last few weeks. They both said, that's the best team we played all year. And these are two guys, their teams they both have winning records, so they're not just saying that. One of them said to me, when he looks at the Mets, he sees a team that isn't that different from his team or any of these teams in this pack. But when he looks at the Phillies, he sees a team that runs a starting pitcher out there every night, or just about every night, that's better than his team's pitcher and better than most teams' pitcher. And that's still true even without Zach Wheeler, which really opened my eyes. He said he told the other guys in his front office, he said, you know what, I think we've got a nice team. But when I look at that team, that's the varsity, and the rest of us are the JV. And the other thing is the numbers bear that out. The Phillies have won more series against teams with winning records than any other team in baseball.
The Comcast Business Studio, powering possibilities. I'm Ray Dunn, taking you through the midday show, and now a staple of our midday show here as we get close to the 1 o'clock hour on a Friday before Eagles football. We go talk to the man that covers the team for ESPN on the Comcast Business Hotline. It's Tim McManus. Tim, how are you today?
Ray, how are we doing?
Doing good. Want to know? I'm feeling better and better about this Chiefs game as I go along through the week. One thing I'm not feeling great about right now, Dallas Goedert. 3 straight days not at practice. Are we at this point just ruling out any possibility to see him on Sunday?
I mean, that's the way that I'm operating right now. When you have a player that misses the entire week, and there hasn't been like a ton of optimism around that injury for this week, I would say anyway. So I'm operating of the mind that he won't be out there. Official report will come out later today, so we'll see what his status is. But yeah, I think it's probably fair to say. And Will Shipley, it's sort of a similar deal where he's been sidelined all week, and that continued today. And so I think you go forward with the mind of they're probably not going to be out there.
Believe it or not, Nick Sirianni believes in the depth of his team. We heard his presser earlier today, and he was talking about that tight end room, obviously spoke glowingly of it. But in the absence of Goddard, it's not something we haven't seen before. But how do you size up that tight end room as we look towards a week without Dallas Goedert?
Yeah, I'm not as bullish on the tight end room as Sirianni is, or at least is professing to be. I mean, you know, it's not a position that they have really invested in, and I thought that this past off season, like, it felt like a good time to do that. You can't force it, obviously, in the draft and those kind of things, but you know that you have a tight end in Goddard who is very good when he's on the field, but isn't on the field as much as you would like because of injuries. I mean, he's got a very clear injury history that signals that you're probably not going to have him for some games. And then, you know, there's Grant Calcaterra, that's your primary backup, and you have Granson. But, you know, really, if you look at that opener against the Cowboys, when they had 2 tight end sets in there, and that was with Goddard, they weren't very effective running the ball. And so what happens when you take him out of that equation when he is your best blocking tight end? It leaves you with a tough scenario where I don't think that you're going to be able to put 2 tight end sets out there very much at all. So they're thin right now. Calcaterra has done some decent things in the receiving game in spots and replacement of Goddard, but I don't know that you can really feel super bullish about that position given that you haven't invested a whole lot of resources into it.
You just talked about the blocking there, and that's something that goes beyond just that tight end room. I know Jordan Mailata spoke yesterday and said they were one block away sometimes. And going back, looking at week one and looking back to the Super Bowl, obviously the running game, which was the hallmark of this team all through last season and has been for years at this point, but especially with Saquon Barkley. What did you make of the running game's struggles, especially in that fourth quarter, not being able to really pick up the yardage you would expect?
I think Saquon Barkley probably put it best yesterday when he said that, you'd be foolish if you're the opponent not to come into each week trying to stop the ground game and having that be your primary focus. I mean, we saw that with the Chiefs in the Super Bowl and the passing attack. Jalen Hurts were able to take advantage of that. But I think that you'll see probably a similar recipe from most defenses throughout the course of the 25 season, which is, Barkley is absolutely amazing, and they have a great offensive line. How can we not shift the focus onto there? And I think that the Cowboys did that as well. And so I would expect that to continue. I mean, even though Steve Spagnuolo got burned in the passing game in that Super Bowl and it wasn't pretty, they were able to limit Saquon Barkley. And so maybe you just sort of play the odds there where you're saying, all right, well, maybe Hurts has a great game and the passing game is on point, but there's also, some evidence that it's not always flying super high. So I think until they sort of prove otherwise, that's what the Eagles can come to expect.
And the passing game, a conversation because of the lack of targets for A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. Are you expecting this offense to be a little less risk-averse in week 2? Or, hey, it's not broke, don't fix it?
Well, Jalen Hurts' comments after the game were pretty telling when I asked him about how he thought the operation went between himself and Kevin Patullo. And the thing that stood out to me is Hurts said, there are times where we have to be less reactionary and more proactive, and that we have to trust our instincts. So if you're trying to boil that down, like what is he talking about for week 1? It seems like maybe it's aggressiveness in the passing game because it was I would say pretty conservative passing game plan there. They had the one to Jahan Dotson, but everything else was pretty much short yardage. And so I think that there is a desire to open it up a little bit more. Certainly, it's got to be the top of your mind if you're Sirianni or if you're Kevin Patullo of like, we got to get AJ involved like pretty early here. 4 catches for 24 yards combined between he and Devontae Smith is not something that you want to walk away from most games from. And I feel like there's some opportunity. The absence of Justin Reed in the secondary, he's now in New Orleans, opens things up deep. So I do feel like the Eagles will try to push the ball downfield some.
Speaking about Sirianni, you wrote about Sirianni today, a great story about just handling success and how you kind of build from taking a team to the mountaintop and not letting it just be a one-time experience. What was the biggest thing you took away in the conversations and just doing the reporting that led to that story about the way Sirianni wants to handle the year-in and year-out success of the Philadelphia Eagles?
Yeah, well, I appreciate that, first of all, Ray. And I would say that the conversation with Gino Auriemma was pretty illuminating for me. One, because he took us into the psychology of a coach who's just won a championship, and he called it both the best thing that happens to you and the worst thing that happens to you, which is an interesting way to put it. And the reason why it's the worst is because you get mentally consumed with trying to repeat. You get concerned that you're going to be a one-hit wonder. And then there's all of these different sort of tentacles off of success, whether it's maybe members of your team get complacent. Maybe it's because in free agency, there's going to be highly desirable players that are going to leave, and you have to find replacements. There's all of these different things that you don't necessarily on the mountain climb up the first time that you have to do the second time around. So I thought that was really interesting. And also, Auriemma basically giving him a tidbit of his psychology, which was because Sirianni went to Auriemma and they were talking about this idea of, okay, once you get up to the top, like now you're the hunted. You're no longer the hunter. And Auriemma sort of flipped that on his head for Sirianni. He's like, why can't you guys be the hunter? Why not have that mentality of we're not defending anything. We're the ones on the attack. And by the way, we already have one. And, so we've shown how good we are, and we're coming after another one. And so I think that's something that Sirianni has sort of applied to his thinking and his messaging throughout the course of the first couple of weeks and during the preseason. And I think it's something that'll serve them well.
Yeah, you could see some of the parroting of that message from Auriemma to him, I think, throughout the entire offseason. I thought it was a really good read. People should check that out on ESPN.com. Keeping with Sirianni here, what does it mean to him to go back to Kansas City now that they have the revenge of a Super Bowl victory over the Chiefs?
Probably not as much as some other trips. I mean, you saw the emotion that he left the game with at Arrowhead the last time. You know, how do you like that, Chiefs fans, or whatever the phrase was. So I'm sure he'll get it a decent amount from the fans out there. But they have sort of achieved their mission as it applies to the Chiefs from last year, being able to get their get back, get a Super Bowl title. And so I think right now it's basically just trying to make it as business-like as possible, where you're not bringing in the extracurriculars. You're not really bringing in your own personal emotion about your relationship with that city, the times that he had coached there, the fact that he wasn't retained on Andy Reid's staff when he took it over. I think you put all that sort of stuff aside, and you just make sure, especially after an undisciplined performance against the Cowboys, that your players are buttoned up and just focusing on what they need to take care of.
And looking into this matchup in Kansas City with Mahomes and an Eagles secondary in which we still have questions about what's going on at cornerback opposite of Quinyon Mitchell. They have questions about who's available at wide receiver for them this week. What do you make about the matchup between Mahomes and the back end of this Eagles defense?
Well, you know Mahomes is going to come in motivated. And you know that Andy Reid is as good as it gets at finding ways to scheme up and take advantage of weaknesses by the opponent. And the Eagles are showing at least one pretty significant weakness in that cornerback 2 spot right now. And, you know, I mean, the Chiefs don't have the receivers that the Cowboys have, clearly. But that being said, there are ways to take advantage of a vulnerability, even if you aren't having your star players that are going to be exploiting it. So I think a lot of it comes down to, let's get the pass rush going if you're the Eagles. Not being able to generate much against Dak Prescott. Obviously much different than what we saw in the Super Bowl. There's been some turnover along the defensive front and on the edge, certainly. They just picked up Zadarius Smith this week. Let's see if he's active and he's able to give them a little bit of a rush. But we know that Mahomes is excellent and that if you give him time, he's going to figure it out. So it's going to come down in large part. I mean, I don't think you're going to get any kind of miracle cure at CB2 right now. And so, you know, it comes down in large part to that front generating pressure on Mahomes so he doesn't have time to pick you apart.
And who's specifically on that front? Because we talked about that Super Bowl. Obviously, Josh Sweat, Milton Williams, they're not walking through that door. They got their payday. When you look back at that Super Bowl, the way they were able to impact the game was massive, and they weren't the only ones. There are still guys here that had their impact on that game. But who specifically are you looking at based on the matchups with that Chiefs offensive line?
Well, I mean, you go to Jalen Carter first and foremost. That was a big part of the equation last week, not on the field, and that affects everything. Like Moro Jomo, he looked so good during the summer, and you didn't see him flash quite as much in that opener. He had a tough matchup, and he didn't have Jalen Carter on there. But when you have Carter and he's attracting that much attention, then obviously your job gets so much easier. And if you're that consumed with one player, just look at the Packers game last night and the way that the Commanders had to think about Micah Parsons. You know, when you're using that much effort and brain power on one player, then everybody else's job along the front gets easier. So, you know, I think that Jalen Hunt needs to have a better performance in week 2 than he did week 1. And I think that there's, you know, just basically everybody across the board does, but things get easier when Carter's in there. So that's obviously something to watch is, you know, what does he look like coming off of the suspension? He's saying all the right things afterwards. His teammates are saying that he's motivated. Like, what does that look like when we get to game day?
All right, we could dance around it, but let's get right to it. The feelings on the game Sunday for the Birds.
So they shifted a little bit for me, right? You know, coming into the season, I was like, because of the revenge factor, it's like, all right, that's got to be a Kansas City win. But then watching both of the teams, the lack of juice that Kansas City had on offense and a couple of vulnerabilities that have popped up on defense led me to believe, like, maybe they just don't have, you know, enough firepower to keep up with Philly. I think if the Chiefs are going to win, it's going to be more of like, okay, the defense does find a way to turn over Jalen Hurts and the Eagles. They're getting prime field position, and then Mahomes is sort of making it work from there with limited resources. But barring that, I think that if you're just stacking up, player to player, the Eagles have the advantage. So I'm expecting them to go in and into Arrowhead and win.
Tim, I always appreciate talking with you. I appreciate it more when you just validate my exact feelings for a game.
That's what I'm here for, my brother.
I appreciate it. That was pretty much my entire line of day. If you go from Monday's show to Friday's show, it's like, yeah, W's and L's. Back in May, I was like, yeah, revenge game. Obviously, Chiefs take that one at home opener. Coming into the week, Chiefs really going to start 0-2? Now I'm sitting here like, what logic outside of prevailing narrative and tangible things are really leading me anywhere towards but an Eagles win in this one?
Yeah, I mean, there's the psychology to the sport. There's no question about it, and it's in favor of the Chiefs there. So you definitely weigh that. They are 0-1. They are at home, and so I'm not saying it's going to be any kind of rollover. But if you're going matchup specific, and you believe that the Eagles are going to be able to at least come close to matching the energy that the Chiefs are bringing, then you have to like Philly.
That's where I'm at with this one. Well, I'll get a chance to talk with you pregame. I'm looking forward to that. But thank you, as always, Tim, for joining us here on the Midday Show.
All right, my friend. Talk to you soon.
Tim McManus of ESPN on the Comcast Business Hotline. That felt good. Felt good right there. As he was going through that answer, I was getting a little demonstrative in here and getting all excited. I'm feeling good after that. I mean, that's
I don't blame you.
That's been 20 hours of content. He did 20 hours of content in
what, 30 seconds, sir?
Yeah. Tim McManus, congratulations. Midday Show is now yours. I'll take my walk away here at this point. Coming up, we've talked about the conversation leading up to the Chiefs. What do you hope the conversation is when we turn on the mics on Monday? Call your shot. What do you think we're talking about Monday morning when we walk in here? You get in on that 610-632-0975. Plus, coming up at 1:30, the debut of Ray's Plays. The 3 bets you don't want to make this weekend, because I can guarantee you I'll somehow whiff on all 3. I'm Ray Dunn. Take it to the Midday Show here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Philly fans, you are the best sports fans in the world.
Show here on 97.5 The Fanatic. Appreciate Tim McManus joining us in that last segment from ESPN. And his lean on the game, similar to mine. We'll get to that coming up in a second. I'm curious for you. You could jump in on this one at 610-632-0975. What do you think the conversation should be on Monday about this team? What's the one storyline you want to see? I love doing the call your shot conversation. Way back in the day. And by way back in the day, I mean like 2 years ago. I mean like 2023 season. A lot of times I did the pre-game show on The Fanatic. So it's like, the pre-game show they tell you about, I would do the show before that. So it's like some days, so like when it would be like a 4 o'clock start, 1 to 4 would be the pre-game show. I'd be doing the 9 to 1 shift. It'd be me 4 hours just chopping it up with you on a Sunday morning, breaking down what I thought was going to happen. And we always did a segment. In fact, the producer of Unfiltered, Savannah Kelleher, produced a lot of those Sunday mornings. And so she can vouch to this. We'd do a segment of what would the conversation be when we came in on Monday? What's the thing that we should be talking about come Monday? And I always love trying to call the shot on like what's going to be the 10 o'clock, right on the dot. We got to talk about this. I think the one thing that we should be talking about come Monday is, wow, Jalen Carter was a man on a mission and reminded you just how different a defense can look with a Defensive Player of the Year candidate, with an all-pro level guy at the interior of that defensive line. It probably is too positive. It probably is too anecdotal for what we do for it to be a 10 o'clock storyline, but I would imagine that has to be a 10 o'clock hour conversation for us on Monday. I think that's a massive storyline out of this one that I want to see play out in real time.
I agree with that. That could definitely be one. I think maybe not the 10 a.m. right off the jump, but a couple segments into it is where's the running game? And not because of the reasons of the Eagles don't win this game. It's more so of the Eagles win this game through the air and still weren't able to get the running game going because that's what the Chiefs tried to stop. But do other teams now have the formula to stop Saquon Barkley and the Eagles running game?
Interesting. All right, I don't mind that one.
It's not saying that the Eagles' offensive line is going to be bad this weekend because they're not playing well and there's no one good on that line. No, we know there's good players on that line. We know Saquon Barkley is a very good running back. It's more so of the Chiefs are going to sell out to try to stop the run, and I think they have success through the air.
Huh. I like that one. I mean, I don't like the reality that it brings to me, but I like that as a potential storyline. So text in at 610-632-0975. A couple of suggestions on what you think Monday we're calling the shot for here. Let's call our shot. What should Monday's conversation be? Now, to get back to that text line, I know we had a couple people chiming in on a few things we had going on in that 12 o'clock hour, including the Commanders-Packers game, and we played the fight song, and I know people were chanting along with it in the car. What do you got? Give me whatever you got on the smorgasbord there.
Let's start with Damon on the Packers versus Commanders rooting interest. He said, why would a person be weird if they wanted to see Washington win yesterday when it comes to being an Eagles fan? Washington clearly is not competition for the Eagles, and Green Bay is.
Okay, clearly. If you want to go clearly with the Commanders at this point, good for you for calling your shot, thinking that they're just going to be nothing this year. I don't know if they're not competition for the Eagles. They are in their division. They're probably the second best team in your division. I know we love to think that we're just going to roll through this thing. I don't know. I didn't anticipate the Eagles getting the 1 seed this year. I anticipate them winning the division, but they were a lot closer in my eyes to battling for the division than battling for the 1 seed, just because of their schedule. So that's why. So I'm sorry. That's my bad. I never would. I don't tend to root in division, especially the first 6 weeks of the season before we really have an idea what the NFL blueprint looks like. So that's why I called you weird. I apologize to
Damon.
Where's?
Didn't have a location.
Okay. Well, I was going to say, I know Damon in West Philly. I was like, wow, that'd be my guy coming after me. That would kind of hurt.
Next up, we have Quinn talking about the Eagles fight song, saying, play the fight song for 4 hours. I'll drive around the city blasting it in my work van all day.
All right, fair enough. Next week, they win. That's it. We're not going to critique anything that happens them winning. We're just playing the fight song for 4 hours. All right?
Hell yeah.
Let's go. We're just going to get excited. Just, hey, man.
Okay, don't worry about it. Enjoy the win, man.
This is actually...
Okay, don't worry about it. Enjoy the win, man.
They win this week, we'll just keep...
Okay, don't worry about it. Enjoy the win, man. Okay, don't worry about it. Enjoy the win, man.
And we'll see how long you can survive. See how long people drive around. What happened to their ratings? Well,
Okay, don't worry about it. Enjoy the win, man.
4 hours. Everyone tuned out. No one ever came back.
Shocker there. Next up, we have another text from Terrence in Wilmington about the Eagles and they're retaining their title. He said, I've always was in the thinking that football isn't like boxing. Boxing, you hold the belt until someone defeats you. Football isn't that. Football is you win it this year, and then going into next year is a new year. Season, you're not defending anything. That trophy from the year before isn't defendable because it's in your trophy case.
What was that?
That was Terrence from Wilmington.
I didn't know if that was Nick Sirianni or if that was Bill Colarulo, Ricky Batalico, or the promotion that's been running here. Did Nick make the switch?
It sounds like.
I mean,
Terrence
hey, to be
probably
credit,
switched too.
to his credit, he did say exactly what they were saying on Unfiltered. It's one of those things that I think I get in the car the same time every day. That I think the same rotator plays every day, because every time I hear them throw it to break in the morning show, I hear Unfiltered, and then it's the boxing thing, and then at Nick Sirianni's presser, and then it's the boxing thing again. So, did Nick make the switch? And to their credit, he used the same analogy. He did. But I think the defending thing, I think it was very interesting, and I implore you to go read the story on ESPN from Tim McManus about what Sirianni's messaging is and the way it came from Gino Auriemma, because I thought that was pretty good. Coming up, we got some people chiming in on that Monday storyline. I've got Ray's plays for you, okay? 3 bets you don't want to make, okay? Because I'm horrid. I'm just telling you, I can't make these bets. All right, I'm struggling right now. I'm in a slump. Ray's plays plus my pick for this weekend, Eagles Chiefs. As we bring you through a Friday afternoon here, getting you set for Eagles Chiefs this weekend. I'm Ray Down on the Midday Show, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Now on 97.5 The Fanatic Sports Update.
No Goddard at practice again today. I'm Sean Rodman, and the Eagles currently out at practice. No Dallas Goddard for a third straight day. Landon Dickerson and Jalex Hunt both appear to be out there. They were full participants yesterday after being limited on Wednesday. Tanner McKee also not out there, as well as Will Shipley. All three, including Dallas Goddard there, are not expected to play on Sunday at this point. We'll keep you updated on the injury report once we get it later for the official word. ESPN's Tim McManus joined us at the top of the hour. In case you missed that, that'll be podcasted on 97.5thefanatic.com. And the magic number for the Phillies is at 5 for the NL East Division title. Phillies host the Royals tonight in a 3-game series, starting up with Walker Buehler, who gets the start tonight for the Phillies, making his Phillies debut. Buehler had a 5.45 ERA this season with the Boston Red Sox prior to his release. And former Philly Michael Lorenzen gets the start for the Royals. First pitch is at 6:45. This update is brought to you by Bet365. Football is back. Get ready for the season at Bet365. When it comes to sportsbooks, Bet365 has it all. Download the app today and see why it's never ordinary at Bet365. I'm Sean Rodman on the home of the best birds coverage, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
This is your wheelhouse, too. Offensive line. How do you think Tyler Steen looked as the starting right guard?
I mean, it's like he started all last year. He had a phenomenal game. He showed presence out there. He wasn't just in there filling in. He showed that I wanted a position. He was, very, very explosive out there. He put his hands on people. He was moving people. He looked like a day one starter, like he should have been there last year. I was totally impressed on Tyler Steen and how he approached this game. I mean, kudos to, Coach Stoutland making sure he's ready to play. And I tell you what, I had rave reviews for him all through the post game, the other night, and just the way he played. So big ups to him going out there and really showing and imposing his will on that office as an offensive lineman.
teams kind of looking at the Phillies when it comes to playoff baseball?
Know how people here look at the Phillies, but I also get to hear how people on the outside look at them. And here's the phrase that GM-type figures in two front offices use to describe them to me just in the last few weeks. They both said, that's the best team we played all year. And these are two guys, their teams they both have winning records, so they're not just saying that. One of them said to me, when he looks at the Mets, he sees a team that isn't that different from his team or any of these teams in this pack. But when he looks at the Phillies, he sees a team that runs a starting pitcher out there every night, or just about every night, that's better than his team's pitcher and better than most teams' pitcher. And that's still true even without Zach Wheeler, which really opened my eyes. He said he told the other guys in his front office, he said, you know what, I think we've got a nice team. But when I look at that team, that's the varsity, and the rest of us are the JV. And the other thing is the numbers bear that out. The Phillies have won more series against teams with winning records than any other team in baseball.
Welcome back into the midday show here on 97.5 The Fanatic. I'm Ray Dunn hanging out with you in a few moments here. We're going to do the debut here of Ray's Plays. And here's the deal. I've been putrid in terms of picking things. So at this point, this might be the made to fade contest here where I give you 3 picks and you might want to go the exact opposite way of where I go here. But on the text lines, people chiming in on what should our conversation be Monday about this team? What Monday storylines are you looking for from this Eagles team? What do you got there, Sean Rodman?
Yeah, Kevin in Hamilton Township saying Monday's talk will be the D-line is back with 4 sacks on Mahomes. Where is the offense at? The run and pass game is where his storylines are.
All right, so you're probably looking at a healthy under for this game. You're looking at a
sounds like.
low-scoring game, closer to where I am as well. I think I'm somewhere around that as well. Not to give away my full pick here, but that's kind of where I was at. But the defensive line being back, if we could feel better about this edge rusher group and maybe everything just looks better with Jalen Carter there in the middle, that would go a long way for, I think, some people with the defensive worries for this team. What else do we got on the text line for that?
Sean from Cinnaminson checking in saying the positive flip side to the running game woes is how long will teams continue to try to solely focus on the run and Hurts cards them up. Hurts runs and throws all over the Chiefs.
Ooh. This is like probably, and hey, I haven't seen Unfiltered's poll yet for the day. If you want to go with more likely, Eagles double-digit win, Eagles win, the Eagles loss. I'm thinking Eagles double-digit win might be, of those 3 choices right now, the most popular choice in town. People are very high on the way this game's going to go.
Based off of that text from Sean as well in Cinnaminson, I think another storyline we could be talking about week 2 very early is Jalen Hurts MVP, if that's the case.
Oh, whoa, get spicy over there, Sean Rodman. Don't steal Tuesday's show on Monday. They win. Talking Jalen. That's going to be the ultimate, like, well, actually, week 1, he only threw for 153, so can he really be the MVP for the 2 weeks? Look what I've seen from, it'll depend how everyone else does. But I like that. A little spicy with it. You throw a little money on MVP before the season?
I did not. Last year I did, and I won with Josh Allen. So I figured.
I was just talking about Hurts specifically.
Oh, Hurts
I
specifically?
didn't realize that you're just a trader.
No money on anyone.
I might have an MVP future out there.
On a quarterback that is up north?
Potentially.
Some may say that they have a 3-word kind of slogan, go, Pack, go. That one?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Raise plays. It is 1:30. I'm going to give you 3 picks that are not the Eagles game. Then I'm going to give you the full Eagles prediction. Then you can react to my Eagles prediction in that final segment, and we will set you up for Unfiltered. Let's start with the 3 games that are not the Birds. The 3 picks that are not the Birds. All right. I right now looking at a line that I guess I understand because you do get 3 points for being at home, right? I'm looking at the NFC East matchup this weekend. Down in Dallas. I'm just not impressed in the slightest with the Giants. The Giants, and I know I took shots at Russell Wilson earlier this week. The Giants brought back 10 of 11 offensive starters for an offense that stunk, and we're like, Russell Wilson, figure it out. Brian Daboll, figure it out. Ultimately, you might not be able to figure that out. They're going down to Dallas against the Cowboys team that is flawed. That if you ask Dallas fans this week, hey, a couple of catches one way or another for CeeDee Lamb, feel like maybe they could have won. Miles Sanders not fumbling, maybe you're in a position to win that football game. Cowboys competed with the Eagles. The Giants hardly showed against the Commanders. Maybe by the time we get to midseason, we're talking about the Giants actually being competitive in games, but I see a 4.5-point line between the Cowboys and the Giants down there in Dallas. And I can't help but think the Cowboys at least show a level of respectability. I understand. Secondary banged up. Maybe you're feeling good about Neighbors in that game, and maybe the Giants try and make it a game for you. I'm taking the Cowboys minus 4.5 in that. So that's the first of Ray's plays. So not very easy one for people to fade around here. Nobody wants to pick the Cowboys. Nobody wants to see the Cowboys succeed. I just look at that game. I'm like, it feels too close of a line for what I think those 2 teams are.
Don't worry. I already wrote it down. Giants plus 4.5.
I have got it. Oh, okay. You're taking Giants plus 4.5. I was going to say, I wrote it down. I got these. We're going to keep track of them. I'm going to go over. Actually, go follow me on the Action Network. I'll put all these up on the Action Network, and then you can watch in real time as they fall apart. Another game this weekend. I'm looking. So this is 2 spreads, and then I'll give you a prop here. 4 o'clock CBS slate. Game I'm not going to watch. I can assure you, given the fact that the Eagles are playing, given the fact that we got the Eagles at pretty much the same time, maybe I get the first 20 minutes of this game, even though I'll be on my way from home from pregame. Kyler Murray actually remembered that he's got Marvin Harrison Jr. on his team this week. He's also got Trey McBride. Now, granted, they didn't blow out the Saints. Murray woke up sick on the road against the Saints. They were able to, kind of get things going offensively. They've made some additions to that team. I don't love the Cardinals as a long-term play in terms of viability in the NFC, but they're going against the Panthers. And the biggest takeaway from people week 1 down in Carolina was, did we mess up this quarterback thing? The Panthers right now, I don't see them in a get right spot. I see them in we're going on the road against a team that actually might be half decent in the Cardinals. 6.5 points at home, taking the Cardinals. I think that they win that game by double digits.
I actually like that one. I'm actually going to be with that on. With
all
you
right,
on that
so you're with me on Cardinals minus 6.5. Last one for you here, and this is a prop, and this is me plus money chasing. All right, so you know me, I like a good play. When I see plus money, I'm going to go after it. Last week, Seahawks, top receiver, 9 catches, 124 yards. You know who they brought in this offseason to be alongside him? Cooper Kupp. Only 3 targets in that game. If you are the Steelers going into this game against the Seahawks, you are absolutely going to be locked in on Smith and Jigba and trying to slow him down, right?
Right.
We also watched the Steelers last week, the highest paid defense in football right now. We watched them allow Justin Fields and that Jets offense put up 32 points. Kupp's over-under for receptions is 3.5. If they're going to try and take away that first option, Sam Darnold, I believe he's going to get it to his second receiver more than 3 times. They're going to try and get it to Cooper Kupp multiple times in this game. They're going to get him more involved in this game because you say, well, Cooper Kupp's getting old. Who's he going to go up against? An older secondary. I don't think he's going to go for like 50 yards in this one. I think there's enough underneath for them to try and get the ball to him a couple times. They're taking stuff away from Smith and Jigba. I'm going the over 3.5 receptions for Cooper Kupp in this game against the Seahawks, or excuse me, against the Steelers defense last week that I didn't love the way that they looked throughout the entire game. They got the win, but they showed themselves at least valuable.
They did show themselves, but I think if you're going to go plus money between the two receivers in that one, I'm going to go with Jackson Smith and Jigba on that one.
He's what, 6.5 over under? I saw on the old
which is
FanDuel app.
7+ receptions at 130.
Yeah,
7 receptions. He had 9 for 122 last week. If you're going to go,
if
back,
I'm the Steelers though this week, who's the one guy I'm trying to take away?
Oh well, they didn't take away Garrett Wilson last week, and he went 7 for 95 and a touchdown.
Yeah, he did.
And
I mean, you got to make adjustments week in and week out. If you didn't get the top target taken care of last week, I imagine you're going to try and get that top target taken care of this week. Hey, if you want to take that one, I'll take this one. We'll see who comes back Monday. You with me on Monday?
I believe so.
All right, there you go. Then in that case, we'll be able to check that out when it comes to. So there's the 3 picks for you. Cowboys minus 4.5, Cardinals minus 6.5, and I'm throwing a little bit on that Cooper Kupp over 3.5 catches in that game. I like him against that Steelers secondary, still trying to figure things out. I'm not trying to take any shots at Slay or anyone that might be a part of that secondary. I'm just saying. I like it. As for this Eagles game, 24-17. Birds win this one. I think we're still going to be asking questions about the offense come Monday. I think that defensively, you're going to see a better effort in this one. I think they're definitely aided by the fact that you're not going to have the top 2 receivers there. I think we're going to get a couple of jokes at Travis Kelce's expense come Monday morning. I think this is a game in which the Eagles are the better team. It's not all going to come together. It is still early in the season. I don't think we're going to feel necessarily great about where they are, but I think we're going to instill widespread panic across Kansas City about where the Chiefs are at this point. And I think they're going to do a good job of slowing down that offense enough to win by a touchdown here, 24-17.
I actually have the same exact score as you, 24-17.
Stop reading my notes, man.
We're in 2 different rooms. How am I reading your notes?
You came in here and you said, I have nothing to say, and I saw you looking over at me. You had nothing to say. Now I know what you were doing. You were just looking at my notes trying to take away my score prediction.
Yeah, okay.
All right, 24-17. What do you got for the game?
24-17. I mean, I think the Eagles' passing game comes alive. I think the running game struggles a little bit, mostly because we saw it struggle in the Super Bowl as well. I think that the Eagles are going to try to air it out a little bit. I wonder if Jalen tries to be a little bit too aggressive. He mentioned kind of in the post-game press conference after Sunday's win that they need to be a little bit more, kind of alluding to that they need to be more aggressive on offense. I think maybe that alludes to maybe 1 interception. I don't know. I do think that they're going to be able to handle the Chiefs' defense and put up some points. And then I think the Eagles have a bounce back with their pass rush.
All right. That's what you heard. What do you got for this game? Jump in the final segment, 610-632-0975. Call or text. Break it down one more time. And it's a Kansas City weekend, not just the Chiefs. Letdown spot this weekend for the baseball team? Please don't be. I'll be there tonight. We'll talk about it. Coming up next, I'm Ray Dunn, taking through middays here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
This is your wheelhouse, too. Offensive line. How you think Tyler Steen looked as the starting right guard?
I mean, it's like he started all last year. He had a phenomenal game. He showed presence out there. He wasn't just in there filling in. He showed that I wanted a position. He was, very, very explosive out there. He put his hands on people. He was moving people. He looked like a day one starter, like he should have been there last year. I was totally impressed on Tyler Steen and how he approached this game. I mean, kudos to, Coach Stoutland making sure he's ready to play. And I tell you what, I had rave reviews for him all through the post game, the other night, and just the way he played. So big ups to him going out there and really showing and imposing his will on that office as an offensive lineman.
teams kind of looking at the Phillies when it comes to playoff baseball?
Know how people here look at the Phillies, but I also get to hear how people on the outside look at them. And here's the phrase that GM-type figures in two front offices use to describe them to me just in the last few weeks. They both said, that's the best team we played all year. And these are two guys, their teams they both have winning records, so they're not just saying that. One of them said to me, when he looks at the Mets, he sees a team that isn't that different from his team or any of these teams in this pack. But when he looks at the Phillies, he sees a team that runs a starting pitcher out there every night, or just about every night, that's better than his team's pitcher and better than most teams' pitcher. And that's still true even without Zach Wheeler, which really opened my eyes. He said he told the other guys in his front office, he said, you know what, I think we've got a nice team. But when I look at that team, that's the varsity, and the rest of us are the JV. And the other thing is the numbers bear that out. The Phillies have won more series against teams with winning records than any other team in baseball.
Welcome back. Midday show here on 97.5 The Fanatic. Final segment for us. Both got the Birds winning by 24-17 because Sean Rodman stole my notes, but it's okay. One thing real quick before we wrap up the show, finish up the Eagles conversation here. Did you see just how alive the Big Five is?
No, I don't think I know what you're referring to.
So myself and the football guys at this station, the three football guys at this station, will be attending Temple, Oklahoma tomorrow. Myself, Andrew Salciunas, and Andrew DeCecco. DeCecco is pretending like he's going as a fan. There is no doubt in my mind he will have scouting takeaways from a number of players by the end of this game. He's going as a fan, which just means that he's not going to be sitting in the press box, but I'm waiting for him to break out like the notepad by the time we get to this game. But three football guys at the station going to this game. And Oklahoma is not sending their band, or its band. Instead, they're going to be replaced by St. Joe's band at the link. Now, famously, the Hawks, no football team. So the Hawks are trying to get their way into some college football here. And what they're doing is trying to be on the opposite side of things for Temple. I resent this as a man that grew up a Hawks fan and ended up at Temple. I resent this a great deal. I understand this is like not out of the normal. Like the teams do this, but kind of gross, man. I mean, Big Five alive, kind of awesome for Big Five rivalries because St. Joe's is somehow going to claim this if Oklahoma wins, where they're like, yeah, we won the game and we're 1-0 in football against you all the time. I'm sure that's what Hawks fans are going to do. But from the Temple side of things, I resent this entirely. Should you stand up with your fellow Philadelphians against Oklahoma?
Yeah, that's interesting, especially because St. Joe's doesn't have a football team. It's not as if they...
Good point.
Like they're...
Salient point by you on that.
Yeah, thanks. I know that they don't have a football team, but at the same time, how many football teams are in the city? Like Villanova, Temple, who would those people kind of root for type of thing? And I guess it would be against whatever Big Five school has a football program at that point.
I mean, it's just a little disappointing, personally, for me, my perspective. I didn't like that. I don't like that they're doing this. I don't like that. This is, I don't even know how. Baseball. Come baseball season, we're going to send the Temple band out there for one of those A-10 programs that come in to play St. Joe's. All right? Who could play this game? Who could play this game?
I mean, I'm all in on that idea.
I'm excited to go tomorrow. Speaking of things that I'm doing, last night got to do a little guest bartending event. Which, have you ever bartended before?
I have.
Did not realize. I did. I'm very good at sitting in front of the bar. I didn't realize how stressful it'd be standing behind the bar.
I'm not a big fan of bartending myself. Better at sitting in front of it.
Yeah. Oh, I'm much better at sitting in front of it for sure. I found that out in a big way yesterday. That I'm much better in that regard. But I did enjoy it. I was doing an event for Philadoptables down there in Delaware. So, helping out dogs, cats, find their forever homes, keep trying to save them, the ones that are homeless. And it was a great organization, but also just a great time. And I had like a half hour behind the bar. There was at one point where I was going grabbing a water for someone here, taking someone's card here to go get them a drink. Someone's asking about the food menu. I don't know the food menu. I don't work there. Like, I felt so bad. The guy didn't realize it was a guest bartending event. He kind of just walked in and sat down, and he's like, so the Turkey Club, what's that like? I'm like, I got nothing for you. I've never been here before, man. He said, what do you mean? You work here? I was like, I don't, actually. I'm not an employee here. This is a guest bartending event. If you couldn't tell by the fact that I'm in a Miller Lite sweatshirt and the other guys are dressed in the tavern's clothes, I'm not employed here.
What, do you think you were the owner?
I don't know. I don't think I give off the vibe of a guy that owns a bar. I give off the vibe of a guy who is around the bar, but definitely not one that owns the bar.
Do you think he probably thought that you just were like a guy that's there all the time that snuck behind the bar and they just pour themselves drinks or something?
Well, that's what I wanted to do before I got out of there. When my guest bartending shift ended, I just was like, all right, I'm going to pour myself one real quick and take it to the other side. I paid. Don't worry. I paid. I tipped well because they helped me out. I was like, I don't know how to do any of this. You got to help me out here. I'm glad they didn't have me mixing drinks, but a lot of fun. So, hey, for your guest bartending needs, I'm available. I'll show up. I appreciate it. It was fun. It's something I hope that shows up this weekend. That interior of the defensive line for the Eagles. It was a good take from one of our texters here talking about the defensive line being back, being the storyline Monday that they're looking for. That's the storyline that I'm looking forward to. We talked about earlier the three things that I'm keeping my eye on with this game. The pressure on Mahomes is obviously the biggest thing. I'm really interested to see how they control the middle of the field. The linebackers we talked about yesterday, just how good they were in week 1. How much better can they be in week 2? I don't know if better is the word I would use, but impactful in terms of, one, watching Mahomes, watching his eyes, being able to follow him if he starts to scramble out. Obviously, what they're trying to do across the middle of the field with Kelsey, that also goes to a little bit of what DeJean's doing out there in the slot, a little bit about what you're getting from the safety position. Very interested in the call it rotation, not platoon, but the way they use Makuba and Brown, if they end up going from, okay, we're just having him in base and we're having him when we go nickel, or if they're just going to pick a safety. Because they did not just pick a safety in game 1. I'm curious when we get to that point. And what they end up doing, obviously, with the second cornerback spot. But I think they have enough defensively, especially with Jalen Carter available this week, to take care of the Chiefs. Offensively, it's just you need more down the field. I get it. You're taking what they're giving you. But I don't think against this caliber of opponent that you can just do that. That you could just take what they're giving you. I just don't think the Eagles last year, the formula was so good because the defense was so dominant and they were just better than most of the teams they played. I don't necessarily think they are that level of better where they can just do that again this year, where you're just rolling it. Where it's like, yeah, we'll just take what we get, methodically move down there. They were efficient. Hurts looked good last week, but I think this time, and Tim McManus alluded to it when we had him on earlier in the 1 o'clock hour, Hurts' comments after the game about trusting a little bit more of the instincts, be more proactive than reactionary. I think you have to be proactive against this Chiefs defense with what you get in that first half to put yourself in a position where, yeah, maybe eventually you can end up running the clock out on them. But you can't just be slow it down the field, slow it down the field, slow it down the field, and we'll make something happen. You got to make something happen for yourself. And I think they have the personnel to do it. I'm just curious whether or not they're going to actually go about taking the steps to get that done. So I'm looking forward to this weekend against Kansas City, both in football and tonight. What do you think for Walker Buehler? What should our realistic expectations be? Just get us through 5 innings? Like he's a 6 starter?
If he gets through 5 innings, that's very, very, I'll be very, very happy about it. I don't have a lot of expectations. If he lets up 5 runs, goes 5 innings, is able to keep a couple clean innings early on to start, because I don't know how quick his leash is going to be, because we have seen him not pitch very well throughout this whole season. He's pitched well in his one outing at Sisselbeck Park when he was with the Red Sox back in, what was that, June, July? Yeah, July.
Yeah.
I think it's very successful if he goes 5 innings, lets up 4, maybe 5 runs. You're going to need the offense today. I think it's one of those days you take the over if you think the Phillies win.
Ooh. Lorenzen, too. Lorenzen's back.
Yes.
Last time I went to no, that's not true. But, I mean, I was there for the Lorenzen no-no, so I always have a strong feeling towards. I would like for Walker Buehler to do his best Lorenzen impression tonight, if he could.
I mean,
that would be nice.
If he did that, I think that we're going to have to talk about who's starting in the postseason after that.
No, because he would be. At that point, he'd be shot. It'd be over. It's like
if he's going to take the same trajectory, sure.
Yeah, if he pulls a Lorenzen, I just need one magical night at the ballpark. I don't need him to be a postseason starter.
And you're also just saying that because you're going.
I've already seen a no-hitter. Sorry.
Do you want to see another one?
Nah, listen. Show me a perfect game at this point.
Oh my.
Last night you saw 8 innings of a perfect game.
I did see that. Although let up 4 runs in the beginning of the game.
I do fear a little of the letdown weekend. Like, if I come in here Monday and they lost 2 or 3 to Kansas City, I'm not going to overreact. But I do fear a little bit of that. Just the emotions of this weekend, like looking ahead to Dodgers, like Royals battling. They need this. Phillies, not necessarily as desperate to get it. They needed the Mets series. They needed the Dodgers series. This one, it kind of fits in that in-between of you want to keep winning ball games, but you don't need it as much as the Royals do.
And defensively, when they go up against lefties, it's especially in the infield, not too good.
All right, over under 2.5 wins against Kansas City this weekend.
Over under 2.5?
Uh-huh.
Under.
No, including the football game.
Oh, that's tough. I think it's going to be 2. I'm still going under.
Give me the over. Rally the troops on this one. We're taking 2 or 3 from the Royals, and they're kicking the crap out of the Chiefs.
I'd be happy if
they
kicking
the crap. I mean winning by 7 points. But they're winning against Kansas City. They're taking the Super Bowl rematch. I can't wait to break it down with you coming up on Sunday. Pre-game show, Connor Thomas and myself get you set for that matchup, 4:25 on Fox. Looking forward to that one. Sean Rodman, thank you for all the work you did today. Back here on the Midday Show on Monday, it'll be Amy Fadul and I reacting to what happens on Sunday. I got a big weekend coming up. It starts tomorrow at noon. Temple, Oklahoma. Andrew DeCecco will be there with me. I'm looking forward to hanging out with Andrew DeCecco tomorrow. Andrew Salciunas as well. I look forward to seeing all of you down there in South Philadelphia on Saturday. And then on Sunday, get you set for Eagles, Chiefs, pregame show. Coming your way at 1 o'clock here on The Fanatic. I'll be hanging out with Connor Thomas. Until then, thank you all for tuning in this week. Go Birds, go Phils, go Owls. That's all I got for you here on The Midday Show. I'm Ray Dunn. I hope to talk to you again real soon, right here on 97.5 The Fanatic.